Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the show today. Hopefully everybody had a weekend. With all that's going on in the world today, I'm not going to assume that it was a good weekend. I think there's a lot
No.
of lethargy and stress and dourness, or maybe
Yeah.
not. Maybe you had yourself a perfectly awesome weekend. My weekend was slow. You know what I had? Something that
Oh.
I would have never imagined to say. I had an $80 lunchbox.
An $80 lunchbox. What
Yeah,
exactly does that mean?
well, I mean, here in Japan they call them bento, but it's basically a type of lunchbox. And I've had a couple of them before that were a little bit expensive, but this one was freaking $80. And my wife so proudly walked in. Someone gave it to me. Gave it to us. She so proudly walked in with it, and it's like, I mean, he's a good chef. I go to his restaurant, but I'd much rather sit down and get hot food brought to my table than a cold
Yep.
bento, right? But
Yep.
I don't think I've ever in my life paid $80 for lunchbox food. You?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I didn't pay for it. It
That
was
would have
given
to
to me.
be
So
that would have to be exceptional.
it was pretty good. To be fair, he is a high-end French trained chef that has a Michelin restaurant here we go to. But
Interesting.
well, not Michelin. I guess it's Rosetta.
Hmm.
But whatever. It's really good. But it's just the concept. I didn't even pay for it, and I'm still bitching. $80. And that would have been $160 for the two of us. And actually, she brought home four, gave two to her parents. So now we're up 320
Holy
bucks.
crap.
Yeah.
What does she get? What's this guy getting out of all this? Holy cow.
Oh well, I get gifts all the time.
I see.
Yeah.
Must be nice. Must be nice.
It's the respect for the teacher thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, we don't have that in America anymore. We abandoned that about the time I started going to school, to be honest with you. Especially modern teachers. Holy crap, are they garbage? Anyway,
well, I mean,
uh,
I mean, do me a favor and check on your computer real quick. How much does it cost for a bottle of 50-year-old Glenfiddich?
let's look.
Yeah, check that out for me.
50-year-old.
Whilst you do that, I'm going to go over here, like and share, and hopefully you guys do the same. Let people know we're on. So let me go do that.
Holy buckets. A lot. It varies quite wildly, but way more money than I would ever spend on anything that isn't a car or a house.
Well, I have a shelf that I've been given these from, and I got what 20, 30 of them in there.
hmm
So how much does one cost in general?
Well, it depends where you get it from, of course. The
So
cheapest price
Japan,
I'm
double
seeing,
it.
and this is just Google, so it's all over the map. There's some that are 50-year-old Glenfiddich for $39,000. Not even making that up.
Wow.
There's others that are down to $2,900. So I guess it would depend on which particular one, I'm
Well, it's
assuming.
probably
Which,
down closer to a few $1,000s than the 20,000. I would assume. I don't freaking know. These are
there is
gifts.
let's see, a Macallan Anniversary Malt from 1928 on this whiskeyliquorstore.com.
Uh huh.
They are selling it for $314,000
Yeah. No, I don't have
for,
one of those.
for
Yeah.
booze.
Well, I mean, it's just the thing is, I keep getting it. This is a 20-year period, right? So it's not like
Yeah.
it's a long time. But still, I got more than 20 of them sitting there, plus other like expensive whiskeys. So I mean, what do I got? 60, $80,000 worth of liquor sitting in a freaking cabinet that I'll never drink?
Yeah.
Stupid.
So if you're not going to drink that Glenfiddich, you might want to look into selling it because I'm
Yeah.
seeing a whole lot of places that are selling it for over $40,000 for a
Holy shit.
50-year-old bottle. Yeah.
I got a lot of those. I do have a lot of those. It's a pretty standard gift. They're from many different people. But when they give things like that, it depends on your status. And
hmm
this is like I've gotten so many. That's very because I'm white too. I'm a tall
Yep.
white man, so let's give him a really nice Scottish whiskey. So I've
Yep.
gotten many of them over the years, and I just just got a bottle a year ago. But
This is
whatever.
crazy, man. Apparently I need to get into flipping wine. Holy and whiskey. Holy
Yeah, they
shit.
do get expensive, don't they? I don't know. It's
This is
ridiculous.
nutty.
But so maybe I got $100,000 worth of liquor in my cabinet, I guess. I don't know.
Who just sits around buying $50,000 bottles of liquor?
I
Like
don't.
what are
People are
you
weird. People are weird.
of all the things, if you're rich, of all the things you can waste your money on, why liquor? It's so
Yeah.
that to me is a monstrous waste.
It is. There's a lot of things like watches, for
Yeah,
instance. I have a couple of nice watches, right? I like watches.
at least those are
Uh,
functional and they'll last forever.
yeah, the automatic mechanics, or perpetual if you go to the Rolex. But you know,
Mhm.
you can go out there, $500. If you're feeling fancy, go for 1,000. But $500, you can buy a wonderfully beautiful watch, a mechanical automatic watch that will
Yeah,
last generations.
that's right.
You don't need to spend 20, 30, a
And
hundred, $300,000 on a fucking watch, dude.
if you keep up with it, you don't let it get screwed up in any way, and you
Yeah,
make sure it stays
basic
functioning. You
maintenance.
take
Yeah,
it to local jewelry shops to make sure the mechanisms all work, and pretty much any jewelry shop worth its salt can work on a watch.
oh
They'll
yeah,
have somebody there who can do it.
just
Um,
re-oil it, regasket it.
yeah,
You know,
they'll do the whole deal. I don't know what they'll charge you. I haven't done it in years, but they will do the whole deal. And if you keep up with it, even a $500 watch will appreciate because they get more like liquor apparently. It just gains value the older it gets as long as it's functional.
yeah, I'm sure the
Um,
vast majority of these they didn't spend 2 or 3 grand on. Matter of fact, I'd heard someone say more like $500 to $800, but that was years ago. So
and these sorts of things are very niche, and those niches for some reason, as we've seen like in comic books and other things, just sometimes they just blow up and things go crazy expensive,
yeah,
or one particular brand for whatever reason, this particular batch, X, Y, and Z reasons,
yeah,
and they're just crazy expensive. That's with any collectible,
that's true.
and that's where the money's at is when you know those particular those particulars that other people don't know, so you can get a good deal on something that you can either flip or keep and be sitting on something worth some money.
Dave says he has a giant size Dracula number 5. I don't
Oh,
know how much is that worth. Check that.
oh, see. Volume one. No, no, no. Oh, I didn't want that.
No,
Hang on.
giant size Dracula number 5.
Go. Go collect. What do they got? You got a price for me?
Hmm.
Got a rough estimate anywhere on this page. What's it worth? Um, According to this, obviously depends on the grade.
Oh, sure.
The highest grade they have a price for, which was sold in 2018, according to this website, was 130 bucks. But with
That's not
inflation
bad.
nowadays, yeah, you're probably looking at a couple hundred, 300, somewhere in that ballpark.
I got a Spider-Man number 1. That's probably
Oh,
the most valuable thing I have. What's that worth now?
oh my. Let's see. No, now stop. I hate it when websites argue with me, Chester.
Yeah, well, they are disgruntled. Are you
Argumentative is the
disgruntled,
option,
Grimlock?
usually.
Not at this moment. Give me 15 minutes. I'm sure you'll have something.
I know. Yeah, I'm pretty good at finding the gruntledness.
Well, it depends on the grade, of course, as always. But the last one that they have recorded at 9.6 grade, which is pretty damn high, 1 year averages around $400,000, 428,000.
You
Yeah,
know how much I paid for that?
probably not $400,000.
I did spend money though. I spent $1,000 to get that because
Oh,
well, no, because I had a collection that I started myself when I was very young, so I had a lot of Spider-Mans, fairly early. And I just kind of, I don't know, I got in a thing in the late 80s, early 90s of just finishing the earlier part of the collection I didn't have. Some of it was quite I had
Mhm.
already done. And that was like wasn't the last piece I got, but it was toward the end of that trying to get a complete Spider-Man run, and I spent $1,000 on that.
So Chester, that could be one of the greatest returns on investment in the history of your life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
sold it, that's a huge return.
yeah.
Holy.
Well,
Well, I
you'd
think
have to get it graded too, of course. 'Cause
sure.
that's where
Well,
the money's at.
it was graded. It's in a plastic thing, but that was back in the '80s, so I don't know what they do now. And it's never come out of it. I've actually never read it. I've read a digital version of it.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend touching it.
Yeah,
I
no,
would
no
use it.
touching. It stays in the plastic. But yeah, no, I kind of figured that was probably the most valuable thing I have. But I got a bunch of dumb shit you wouldn't expect to be worth money. I got a bunch of moxes and
Yep.
a whole bunch of magic stuff we just had. It wasn't even collecting. It was just you simply had it, right? Because
Yep.
I was on Magic Day 1, and so it had nothing to do with collecting, but it turns out they're worth a lot of money.
Which
My
to
wife is
me,
constantly hunting for them.
well, that's good.
No,
See,
she'll
gives
never
her gives
find
her a
them.
nice.
No, no, I'm far more sly than she. Yeah,
I like that.
yeah.
See, to me, these sorts of things like comic books and things that are super niche and only certain people actually care about, there's really, in my estimation, very little difference between that and like NFTs. Uh, the only real difference is obviously a comic book's an actual physical thing that you can hold in your hand, look at, and do things with, but or magic cards as well. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's still just paper with pictures on it. Like
Mhm.
it's not like they've done anything super
Right,
special
right.
here.
That's why it's weird. It's worth so much. But I remember Ben was, here with me in Japan, right? And
Yeah.
just got talking, but we were playing Magic actually, and we got talking about. I say, oh yeah, I got a bunch of old stuff, and I didn't really because I don't follow it, right? I didn't know, and we're just pulling it out, and I pull out a fistful of frickin' Moxes and Black Lotus and Kobolds and things like that, and he almost passed out. Poor Ben.
So you're
Two nerds right there.
telling me you could get some of these channels that go around and do these appraisals on these sorts of things, get them out to your place and give people heart attacks is what you're
Yeah,
telling me.
yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah,
Accidentally. Just oopsie.
but
Oopsie,
how?
I got millions.
Yeah,
Oops.
well, I mean, how ironic is that, right?
Yeah.
Because there was no
That's how it
intention
happens
on
a
my
lot
part,
though.
right?
If you watch some of these like like even antique appraisal shows and stuff, these people don't know what they have, or they didn't even intend to have. They just have it for various. They liked it. They went to a store. Oh, that's cool, and they bought it for cheap or whatever, or they got it from an ancestor or whatever. And these appraisers come in and are like, "Do you have any idea what this is worth?" And they're like, "No." And they'll tell them sometimes it's not a lot, and other times it's millions of dollars. Uh,
Yeah,
that kind of stuff happens. I'd say it's almost more often than intentional collecting, where the big stuff gets found accidentally.
yeah,
Somebody just happens to have it.
yeah, yeah. It's a lot of times like that. With the whiskey stuff, I mean, honestly, I should probably try to sell it because I'll never drink it, so give it to someone who will appreciate it, right?
Right.
It just feels wrong because they were gifts,
Yeah.
so they just sit there. But
Were they gifts from people you one still know or two like?
Do you have any of
yes,
that nickel whiskey?
and yes, yeah, no, because the being a teacher in Japan carries prestige with it anyway,
Yeah.
right? Being a
Yeah.
professor in Japan is like almost god level status, right? The Japanese respect education, unlike Americans, right?
Yes.
And
Well,
they're
I
they're f-
think
they're
let me
fanatical
put a
about it.
caveat. Let me put a caveat to that.
Well,
I think Americans love education. We don't like the education system. I
Oh
think is the
well,
problem.
you know what I mean
Yeah.
though. But they're
Yeah.
fanatics about it here, so I have that going for me.
well,
I'm
that
also
your
a giant
education
white
system actually
American
works.
man. What was
Yes.
that, Grimlock?
Your education system over there actually works.
It works quite well.
True.
Yeah, it does.
It's quite effective.
Um, but if you put all those factors together, I have any rich person anywhere within sight of me wants to be my friend.
Well, you're a big giant bear man. They're
Yeah, I am.
terrified of you, Chester.
Yeah.
It's not out of affection. It's genuine fear.
You
They're
think
like, "Oh,
what
I
you
gotta
want, I'll
befriend
think
him."
what I want.
I gotta befriend the Sasquatch, man.
That's true.
He might eat me and my
That's true.
children.
That's true. That is fair.
So basically, what we're saying is we've discovered how gods are formed.
Hmm.
They're just very large, powerful men that everybody else is afraid of. So
Yeah.
they start bringing them gifts, and then eventually we started calling that tributes, and we started calling
Yeah.
that tithes, and all these other names. But really, all it was, hey, please don't eat me. Hey, please don't kill me. Hey, here.
Ironically, there's probably truth in that. Right?
Humans are so stupid.
I'm just imagining a
Oh.
scenario where a little old Japanese woman is bringing a basket to Chester's resident, going for the great kaiju Howley, and she presents the basket.
Yeah. That's right. I get it all the time. Then they touch my ass.
Oh,
Weird.
well,
It's creepy.
listen.
He ain't stopping him. You didn't hear him one time said he was stopping him.
No, I didn't stop him. No, that's right. Hey, if a lady wants to touch my ass, have at it, lady.
Yep. It's always been my philosophy.
Then he looks in the basket. He's like, "There's not enough tribute for ass grab."
There's enough
Sorry, great
tribute.
Sorry, great homie.
Your tribute is lacking.
Yes, that would be kind of cool. I wouldn't mind being that. I wouldn't mind that. That'd be all. You know, the funny thing is how often you get the front touch,
Oh,
right? You know, in my lifetime, right? And it's like, it's kind of weird because, you know, we men, we just let women do these things, right? But if we
Pretty
did the
much.
same, boy, it would be war, right?
Yeah.
We allow public molestation.
Well, it's weird with men, right? Women do these kind of things. It's all in play, but they hit on us and they grab on us and they, you know, they wanna test the waters. They want to see if, you know, is he worthy of my attention? So they grab your dick, you know. But I mean, but we let them.
Yep.
We let them.
It gets real awkward when it's a woman who is in a relationship with a friend and she's drunk. Then it gets awkward.
Oh, dude,
That's happened to me a couple times. All of a sudden, my stuff was getting grabbed. Like, whoa, nope, we don't do
No.
that. We don't play that game.
I actually have a perfect story of that. I was in Hong Kong. I have a bunch of friends in Hong Kong, and one of them's dad is like wicked rich, right? I mean, he's like a freaking billionaire or something.
Yep.
And so, you know, I didn't even know this initially when we were friends, but and we go hang out and we just do things together, and we've kind of been friends for decades now. But I was at a party. And it was one of the rich people thing. I don't know if you guys have had the opportunity to mingle with the rich, but they're weird.
Mhm. They are strange
They're
people.
weird. Yeah.
And they smell funny.
They do.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
is
I don't know
true.
what that's about.
But you know, and because of my travels and being a musician and all that kind of stuff, I've mingled with the rich on many occasions. I'm not that,
Yeah.
but I have. And but I was at a party and it was in this ultra private like penthouse lounge thingy, right? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like super fancy with a bartender who was doing all kind of flippy things. And but he was a good bartender though, man. His crickets are great. Anyway, I know it's a girly drink, but I love it. That mint grasshopper thingy.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of mint.
Yeah, I
Never been a big
like it.
fan of
My wife isn't either. Anyway, I'm up in there, and of course, there's plenty of girls eyeing me because you know girls. But there was this one girl. She was a touch drunk. It wasn't even that bad, but she was just touch drunk, and she's with a dude, right? She's with a dude, and I'm assuming he's probably a hedge fund manager or some ridiculous thing, right?
Mhm.
And but she was all over me all night. She wanted to, you know, to be close and touch me, and you know how girls are, right? And
Oh yeah.
asking all these questions, kept any chance to touch me and stuff. And I was like, usually I don't really think much about those situations, but I actually felt bad for the dude. I didn't really know what to do. I didn't know what to do because I felt bad for him because man, that was
Out of pocket.
yeah,
As
but
they
it
say.
was classless. That's not cool, dude.
Yeah.
Don't do
Well, when women
Yeah.
get like drunk, I've never seen one be classy. Put it
that.
that way.
No,
That's just
dance with whom you came, right?
Hilarious, yes. Classy, no.
Quite
Yeah,
funny to watch,
I did
but
feel
not
bad for that
exactly
guy.
exemplars of class when they're real drunk.
The only thing is, because at that age, I was quite young, he's lucky she wasn't a hottie.
Uh-oh.
Mhm.
Uh-oh. Would have been bad news bears is what you're
Bad
saying to
news
me.
bears. Yeah,
Yeah.
certainly would have been. But yeah, you see those things from time to time, and yeah, women are weird.
No, see, I have a rule. I don't particularly care, especially when I was younger. Now I might not do it, but when I was younger, I was like that. I didn't really care if that was your girl if I didn't know you. If you were one of my guys, I wouldn't even consider it. Wouldn't
Oh
even
no, of
cross my
course
mind.
not. Of course not. Yeah.
But if you're some guy I don't fucking know, well, that sounds a lot like your problem, buddy. That
Yeah,
sounds
well,
like your
control
issue.
your woman. What are you doing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Fair enough, right? But yeah, no, I've seen some things like that, and not just to me.
yeah,
I've seen it at afar, right?
yeah. It's
So
not any good when you're well, if you're on the other end of it. I've never been, but I can imagine. But it's also not good if it's somebody you care about. I mean, you see their woman just being wrong, no class, or treating them wrong, and there's not really much you can do. You can talk to them about it, but at the end of the day, they gotta fix that problem, and it's not fun. I've got a buddy right now, one of my best friends. I just hung out with him today. We just did some stuff, made some money, about $400, good stuff. Um, but he's got a wife who he just lets push him around, and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
I don't get it. I don't get it. It's just not in me. I'm not built that way. I would leave a woman in a heartbeat before I'd let
Oh
her
yeah,
treat me like that.
absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree. But
Yeah,
I think one of the worst examples I saw of it was at a party in the Upper East Side in Manhattan,
yeah,
and it was one of those, because I worked at a studio. I was a session recorder, right? And
yeah.
it was one of those heavy metal, rock and roll parties that I love, which is weird because it's not the music I played. But those are the parties I like to go to. And there was, I didn't really know him personally. His lead singer, I knew off and on. I wouldn't call him a buddy, but I certainly chatted with him quite a bit. But I can't remember. I think it was the bassist for Wasp. I think he was the bassist for
Hmm.
or a guitar player. I know it wasn't the drummer. I know that it wasn't Blackie either. But anyway, he's sitting at this party and there's a girl we're all kind of paying attention to because she's in one of those. You ever seen those kind of slinky one piece dresses that barely cover their ass, but they're like it's made
Yeah.
of a material that's just it's almost like liquid metal.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she's
I do.
dancing with this guy, and to be fair, he was a hottie dude. I get it. He kind of had that Brad Pitt thing going on. But she's
Yeah.
all dancing and rubbing up on him or pulling that skirt up. We're full of panty shots going on left and right. And
Oh Lord.
it wasn't me who said it, but someone else, because we're just sitting on the couch watching this girl. I mean, she was, trust me, worth watching. But she was just, I guess, yeah, it was just, fuck me, fuck me, fuck me all day long type of activity, right?
Yeah.
And somebody else says like, "Damn, did she come with someone?" And the guy sitting next to me, like I said, it was I think it was the basis for Wasp. He said, "Yeah, me."
Oh man.
It
As long as
sucks,
as
dude.
long as he
It
understood to be like, listen, she
sucks.
came here with me, but she
She
ain't
ain't
leaving with
leaving
me.
with
So
me, right? Yeah,
you have fun, buddy.
yeah. She was a smoking hottie though. She kind of had that. There's a girl I have in mind. I don't know her name though, but she kind of had that little bit of Latin thing going on.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's my kryptonite right there,
Yeah, she
Latinas.
was. Damn, dude, that was wrong.
Yeah. The problem with our sweet Latinas is unless they get real lucky with the genetic lottery, they hit that wall at Mach speed and they just morph into something very unattractive in
Yeah.
a way that no, I don't think any other woman like ethnic group does. It's a shame. It's tragic to see.
hmm Yeah, see, I got still got 30 years before mine hits her wall.
Well, the elf. Yeah, we get it. She's an elf. We understand.
No, the Asians, it's like around 80 something, right?
Yeah, it's silliness. They just
Yeah,
don't age.
they
They just
don't.
decide right around 35 or so. I'm done. That's good. That's a good age to stop. They just stop. They're just done aging now.
Yeah, it is what it is. And it depends because you can have mixes. I've seen some Scandinavian girls in their
Yeah.
60s are like, wow, dude, right?
Yeah.
But yet I've seen them like 32 and like, woof, what happened, right?
Yeah.
So it
Yeah,
just depends. I don't know that it's universal, but the Asians do certainly age a lot slower. But then again, they can also be very unattractive from the get, though.
that's true.
You
Yeah,
know,
they do have uh, gremlin-like features
they
sometimes.
can,
It's
yeah, they can.
not like
It's not as bad. I mean, when you get into a certain racial demographic, is you're getting some pretty bridge trolls going on. Um, probably the most universally unattractive to me are like the South American natives.
yeah, they're not pretty. They're not a pretty
Yeah, well, they
bunch.
got those big round torsos and squat
Yep.
necks and squat. Yeah, it's just very to me. I'm sure there's some people that find it very attractive, and that's the cool
Oh yeah.
thing about men. We're not universal in what's beautiful. We're really
No.
not. Women are much more that way than we are. But yeah, no, it's goodness gracious, dude. But I think the most bridge troll I've ever seen in my life was a Polish woman.
Oh gosh, not the Polish. Don't
Yeah,
don't bring the Polacks into this.
yeah, yeah. But that was
Uh,
but she literally had a hair
see,
lip. I shit you not,
see,
Grimlock.
Poland somehow
I
did
don't
it
know.
right. They somehow figured it out.
Yeah, they're
They
doing
sent
better.
all the they sent all the stupid Polish people to America
They
and
did.
kept
Well,
the
everyone
regular
did.
the normal ones there. Well, I
Well,
don't know about everyone. I'd say we got the good end of the stick from the Brits. Have you seen British people? They're a mess.
There-
They're a mess.
fair, but I think it's the mixing. But well, what does that thing on our Statue of Liberty say? Give us your weak, your poor, your meek, or
Yeah,
something like that. What is
it's
that
some nonsense.
quote? Yeah,
all,
It's
all,
some
all I
nonsense
know
like
is
that.
all I know is you mentioned Pollock, and for some reason I just heard Rodney Dangerfield in my head going, "And the Pollocks, I tell you."
yeah. Well, Rodney, that's a great stand-up right there. Rodney's badass. Uh, but uh,
Uh,
But yeah, but basically what that thing on the Statue of Liberty is saying is, yeah, we don't want your rich people, your smart people. You keep them. We'll take your useless ones to send them to us, and that's our tradition.
yeah. And then we
Yeah,
became a land of outlaws and degenerates. It's
yeah,
fine.
we did. Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we figured it out.
We did. Yeah.
Uh, but no, I would say if we're gonna go on like who's got the prettiest people, Scandinavians probably win that. Unfortunately, bastards.
Yeah, I know.
But
We're beautiful people. Thank you.
I have to say, Latinas and Latinos, their problem is they have this low class of them, and I use class like as a ranking system that drags their number way down because they can be ghoulish. But when they're not, they're beautiful.
Well, when
Even
you get a
the
hottie
men are really
Latino,
handsome.
you're good to go. That's true.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
true. Hmm.
So it's a toss up. And then I'm crazy like this because this is how I like some women. I don't mind me a beautiful Irish woman either. A nice fair
No,
skin,
no,
giant
no. I've
boobs,
seen
nice
some
hips.
gorgeous Irish women. Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
everyone has their beauty. Every culture
yeah.
does. But there's beautiful women in Poland. But I would say probably the most attractive humans on earth are probably the Southeast Asians.
Well, the females for sure.
Consistently, yeah. I mean they just the
I don't know about the
Scandinavians.
guy.
Well, even sometimes the guys are prettier.
They are very pretty, but I
Yeah.
don't particularly listen. If I'm gonna go for a man, I want him to be a man. I don't want him to look like a little boy. Get out of here with these little boy looking dudes. You randomly will have out there though just hyper masculine looking guys out of
You do.
nowhere. Just out
You
of
do.
nowhere, they'll come
Yeah.
walking down the street like, where the hell did he come from?
Yeah. Yeah. The funny thing is when I was because I've been all over Asia, right? But
Yeah.
I was in where was I? I think it was in maybe it was Taiwan. No, I think it was Jakarta. It was Jakarta.
Good old Jakarta.
Because I was doing the tour thing, right? I
Yep.
did that a couple times, and I was in Jakarta, and I had some downtime before I don't know, next day's sets or something, and I was just kind of walking around, and I found myself on the by accident, completely and without any kind of intention whatsoever. The kind of prostitute street.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The red
Yeah,
light district.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, these girls are out there. I'm just walking along, checking it out, and these girls are doing their job. Just those girls are incredible salespeople, right?
Yep.
But just they're just doing their thing. But I'm walking by, and all of them perked up big time. And because it's not all because those girls sometimes want to just have fun instead of working, right?
Mhm.
And But they perked up big time. I remember that. I've had that response. You would too, just a white dude in general.
Yep.
But boy, they perked. They were very interested in me, like every one of them. As I walked down the street, I had 1,000 eyes on me.
That's
So
funny.
yeah, whores.
Listen, Ben. Listen. I'm saying, if I was gonna be a man who wanted other men, I don't want a little bitch. Like, I understand why them little bitches don't get women. I get it. The women don't want them either. They're like, nah, nah, get out of here. What are you gonna do? I can kick your ass. They're
Yeah,
not intimidated by you at all.
help me
Women
out.
want to be intimidated a little bit, just a
Help me
little
out,
bit by you.
Ben. What do we call Thundera? The one guy that likes the big burly guy. What do we call those? I've been out of the States too long. I don't know the terminology anymore. He says BBC Bulls. I don't know what that means. What is a BBC Bulls?
That means big black cock.
Oh, it makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
We do like to initialize things, don't we?
We do. It is interesting how we do, especially in English, it seems. It's something we do quite often in English. There's a lot of it.
I thought it meant blue ball cunts.
No, I don't want those. No, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Ben. They gave me the word. You are a Twinkie.
No, you see, if you
Why?
got two bears,
Why would a Twinkie? Why Twinkie? I don't get it.
no, a twink. I'm nowhere near pretty enough to be a twink. Let's be honest. You got to be real pretty to be a twink and fabulous to pull off
What,
twink.
Grimlock? What is a Twinkie?
A
He's
twink.
did I miss?
Um,
Yeah, no, it doesn't have an I on there. Yeah, twink. Yeah.
Yeah,
a very effeminate gay dude.
that's right.
So flamboyant or flamer, as we
Yeah,
would say when I was a kid. So
that's right.
when I was young, a flamer now is a Twinkie. Huh. Why did it change? We already
It's
had
Yeah.
a
more just a
word for
twink.
it, huh?
They also have to be. They also have to be pretty, right?
Oh, did
I'm
they?
a
Oh
lot of
well.
things. I
There's
wouldn't
not a
consider
lot of gay
myself
dudes that are
pretty.
pretty. I don't know if you've noticed this.
Well, they think they are.
Well, they think they're fabulous. Of course, that's true. That was a great show. What was that? Canada or Britain had that fabulous show. It was funny.
It
But
was fun.
Yeah, no, I've certainly known some gay dudes in my life, and whatever makes them
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah, I don't really care
Yeah,
as long as they respect my boundaries, they can do whatever they want to penises. Have fun. Rock
yeah. I
out.
mean, that's the only thing, right? Just kind of respect other people's choices. That's pretty much
Yeah.
it. And honestly, like I said, because I worked in the music industry, and and I've met plenty of homosexual people, and I never saw any of them that was trying to make me gay. I mean, I've
They
never
were
seen
thinking
it. This
they were
this
probably
is a
thinking about it. Your
well,
big bull ass.
I'm just saying maybe, but I've been hit on a couple times. But I mean, it's very
Yeah.
different type of gay man today. They didn't used to be like that at all.
No, they were very reserved. The ones I used to hang out with were all real reserved, and I had a gay couple at a party one time try to get me to, go be with them. I'm like,
Mm,
nah, guys, I'm very straight. Thank you though. I appreciate it, but I'm good.
yeah. Yeah. But whatever. I don't understand the hostility that's coming out of this or this faux hostility. I don't really know. They say you're killing us. I was like, I haven't killed one of you guys in
I
decades.
think a lot of people are just angry in
Yeah.
general,
Yeah.
and our modern society breeds anger in a way that I don't think we've ever had. When our civilization was far more brutal, people just weren't this mad. Like
Yeah,
they're
but
just
I don't
mad.
know.
People are walking around mad all the time.
You
I don't
know,
like calm down.
I have to push back against the medieval thing because we get a lot of people who just come out and say it was much more brutal time in the past and it's your
Yeah,
Hollywood image. But I've studied a lot of
that's
history and
true.
I really don't think humans have ever been any different than they are now. I
That's
really
fair.
don't.
That's
I mean, because when you look at all of these wars, like, and of course, the aggressors, You have some wars that are, there's 100,000 people involved, right? I mean, they've happened. Of
Sure.
course, in the 20th century, we really went whole hog on that. But most all conflicts and aggressors in the past, you're talking of just a couple hundred, a few hundred people. I mean, most
Yep.
of these famous battles, like the Battle of Agincourt, what was there? 600 people, 700 people on the field, right? I
Well,
mean,
when I say brutal, I don't necessarily. I did say civilization. Let me make it more clear. The world. We hadn't quite tamed the world with technology the way we have today. Like life was more brutal in general.
mhm.
People, your children would die far more often. You could just die. Just things would. I mean, you could still today, of course, but it was far more common back then. Your wife would very often die in childbirth, for instance.
Yeah,
Things like
it
that.
could happen. Yeah,
Life was just a harder. It was harder to live, even if
it's true.
humans, I think we're probably happier by accounts I've seen. Obviously, we can't really get good data thousands of years ago. It's hard to do, or even hundreds, hell, even 10. But I would say, from what I've seen, people seem to be maybe not happy is not the right word, less miserable
Yeah.
in an
No, I think
emotional way.
so. I think people were because one of the problems we have today is narcissism, right?
Oh, it's
Everyone
bad.
thinks they're the center of the game. And
Yeah.
the average humans throughout history probably never had that concept. They never thought that way.
No,
But
no, they're
but
just
anyway,
trying to eat tomorrow. They're like, I'm
yeah,
only
yeah,
gonna eat
yeah, yeah.
tomorrow.
But when we're looking at savagery, I mean, I think one of the most recent European run into, just widespread savagery, not just this one group that's bad, right?
Yep.
Was coming into the Americas. The Native Americans were in a post-apocalyptic situation. We don't really know what happened, but it was bad, and they were savage. Not
Yes.
all, but most of them were bad. I mean, just like animalistic, right?
Well,
Um,
and by the time the people, the Europeans and stuff really started to come here, not just random little expeditions, but actually come here, pretty much the ones who were left, with some exceptions, but the ones that were left, the prevailing ones, were the worst of the worst because they had wiped out all the else.
That's
So
true.
that's what was left.
Yeah. There were a few pockets of copacetic, but I
Yeah.
mean, as far as recent examples, now there's going to be little groups or regimes or things that, of course, cause trouble. That's not my point. It's not widespread savagery or brutality. It's very localized. Like if you think
Yeah.
about Alexander, he conquered the Middle East, right?
Right.
And North Africa. But well, kind of. But how many men did you think he took into battle?
It wasn't a lot. I
No,
mean, it was a lot, but not a lot,
not
like
really.
what we would think. Yeah.
No. I mean, not even the size of a standard. Usually the legions would run with two to four legions together. It's not even that many people. It's
Right.
40,000. Forty
Yeah, that's what I thought. I
thousand
thought it was like
men.
20 or 40, somewhere in
Yeah,
there.
40,000
Yeah.
men conquered the entirety of the Middle East. That should tell you something. It should tell you a lot about sizes of armies and regimes and their ability to broadcast brutality, right?
That's right. Yep.
One of the things that I keep seeing, coming out of the situation in Israel is, not the situation itself. I mean, the Jews are methodical and they're very smart, the Israelis themselves. And
Mhm.
of course, they're going to take their time and they're going to cut you out like a knife. Finally, it looks like it.
Mhm.
Because for decades and decades, they keep making concessions over and over and over. And hopefully this will be the time they don't. Right? I hope so. But that's a conversation. We can have that if you like. But I'm more curious of the exterior stuff that's going on, right?
Mm.
Some of the comments I'm hearing, and I find them, now I understand that the majority of humanity are dumb, scared monkeys sitting in the dark throwing their shit at the wall. I get it.
That's right. Yeah.
That's reality. But some of the stuff I'm hearing, like they going on that the Israelis, the Jews, of course, they always, all the other Christian and
Right.
Arab Israelis, we just leave them out of the conversation, I guess. But the
Yeah.
Jews are colonizers. It's like the Palestinians are Arabs.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. That's a good point. How far back is what's the clause? What's the time frame
I
here?
mean, I mean,
Because
Jesus,
so are they.
they're all over in the frickin' Morocco, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
That's how far they colonized,
That's right.
right? I mean, what are you talking about? I mean,
Well,
that's moronic, right? I mean,
they've
colonizing.
created this slur, and that's what it is. Calling that's how they use it, is like a slur. And I think it's just historically stupid. Everybody is a everyone. There's not a
Yeah,
human being that lives today who is
100%.
not a colonizer.
There's
They don't
no
exist.
the land you're on was owned by many, many peoples before it. Yeah,
Yep.
of course, that's
And
true.
your ancestors, if you go back far enough, probably killed them for it. That's just the way it is.
More than likely. That's how
Yeah.
humans are. We are warlike. But you
Yeah.
got that one, the colonizer thing. I'm like, huh? And then you got a bunch of these idiots that are like, the Jews always lie. I mean, all people lie. That's fair. But the
Yeah.
Jews always
But
lie. Islam does not allow such atrocities. They lie. Islam's wholesome and beautiful. They're lying. And it's like, well, once again, who gives a shit what the Israelis have to say? Hamas told us what they did. We don't
yeah.
need the Israelis'
Well,
opinion whatsoever at all.
you also have to understand that both of these religious sects, Judaism and Islam,
Hmm.
within their religion have clauses, apparently that's my word today, that allow them to lie in defense of
Oh, they do.
Judaism and Islam.
And keep in
And
mind,
the
those is
Islamic one is called Taqiyya. I can't remember what the Judaic one is called, but Taqiyya is the Islamic one. They are allowed to lie to you. Even if you're a Muslim, they're allowed to lie to you if it is in the furtherance of
yeah,
Islamic
of
goals.
Islam. Well, the Jews have the same thing.
Yeah,
The Hebrews, this is the interesting thing you probably don't know because most of what we call modern day Jews are secular, right? They're not
right.
actually religious. If you go to the very Orthodox Jews, they're going to give you a very hard time in the Holy Land. They're not going to be nice to you at all if you're a Christian because they have the same clause of kill the non-Jew. Where do you think the
Right.
Muslims got it from? I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, do you think they actually created anything on their own? I mean,
And, well, I mean, there's a lot of talk about the old Islamic golden ages of learning and expansion and all this, and
well,
I
the
just say,
Ottomans, yeah,
I
they were
just
different.
say, guys, they didn't really. It wasn't Islam that caused any of that, guys. Like, there's
Yeah.
no correlation. There's a correlation, but there's no causal link here.
It's the
Even the
Byzantines, and the
original one,
Byzantines are Greeks, and the
exactly.
Greeks are
The
Jews.
Greeks, the
Yeah,
Byzantines, all
so
these people who were there, the
yeah,
Persians who were there before them,
don't tell
they're the
them
ones.
that.
No, no.
Yeah,
They're the ones who did it. It
yeah,
was largely those peoples who happened to still be there, or they had left the information behind and they just discovered it.
uh
And that's why that happened. It's just the reality of the situation. And to be honest, the more I have studied in the last few years, because I even told you before we got on here that I was reading the Gnostic texts.
Hmm.
Well, I've been going back and reading a bunch of different religious texts, and I have studied some of Islam. And for the most part, Islam is perfectly fine. It's
Oh,
not a
sure.
terrible religion. If
Just
you if
people
you
are people,
actual
dude.
follow, yeah, if you actual follow most of its tenets, you'll probably live a really good life. But of course, there's people who want to take something and apply it where it shouldn't be for other means and use it as a shield. One of the things that drives me nuts about modern Christians in America, especially, is so many of them are cowards. They're just cowards,
Hmm.
and they'll hide behind Jesus telling them to, not judge people, even though that's not what he said. Um, they'll hide behind things like this. They'll hide behind the Bible. They'll hide behind the cross, as I call it, instead of standing in front of it like they're supposed to.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. But then the same thing in Islam is a very similar vein where there's people who take the violent text and turn it into literal, meaning they go and try and do these things.
Hmm.
And it's to me, it's the same thing. You're taking the thing intentionally into a context where you want to rationalize your
Oh,
behavior.
that's what
That's all
people
you're doing.
do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, 20% of any population, it can vary up and down a little bit, but basically 20% of any population anywhere in the world are the noisy, troublesome ones.
Yeah.
Right? It's just the reality of it. I mean, of course, we all know there's plenty of nice, gentle, friendly Muslims. Of course, there are. They're people. But we're talking about the Byzantines, though, which, of course, the Ottoman Empire. Everyone wants to put the Muslim tag on that. But Justinian,
Yeah.
is one of the greatest emperors in human history. No one ever talks about him. I mean, shit, he created a whole language for his savage northern brethren.
Yeah.
I mean,
The
he's a
old
pretty impressive
Justinian. He
dude.
does get left out of the conversation a
He
lot. That's
does.
interesting.
It's weird. I mean, he did so many amazing things. He was truly a radically successful emperor.
Yep.
But no one talks about him, but no one talks about the Byzantines much. And
They did get kind of shoved aside,
he did.
historically speaking, like in the
Yeah.
nomenclature for their counterpart in the West, which I find fascinating because there's no good reason to do that I can think of other than religious dogma.
Oh, I'm sure it's
That's what
all
I
about
guess
the
it is.
dogma. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
But you got to keep in mind that these are, of course, Byzantines were Greek, and even the
Yeah.
Ottomans, even though they took over, they kept those Greeks and they put them to work for centuries.
Yep.
They still do, you know. But those Hellenic people we're talking about, just keep in mind those were the rich Hebrews or Hyksos from Egypt, and they had their nice summer palaces up in those pretty little water islands in the north. And when the 3,200 year ago Santorini volcano popped, sent the world into chaos and a very long dark age, they had to learn to survive. But yeah, they're little self-contained villas, right? And that's what
Right.
became the polis, which is the
Well, it's
Greek
also
word for their
where,
city-state, right?
yeah, people today still go there for vacation. Like it's still a
Yeah. Oh, they're
vacation
gorgeous. Yeah, they're
spot.
beautiful. The
Yeah.
Aegean is gorgeous. I've been there. But don't tell the Greeks this, but they are classical Hebrews.
Oh,
But I mean,
oh,
in their blood. I'm sure there's been lots of mixing over the years. But the Byzantines and therefore the Greeks, the Hellenics, they survived a little bit more intact than a lot of people
yep.
because they were the bankers and the teachers. Of course, they initially the Byzantine Empire was the only Greek empire we've ever had, actually. But
Hmm.
the when the Ottomans came in, they weren't stupid. They kept
No.
them Greeks and they used
Yep.
them, and
Well, they
therefore Greece was protected and it didn't become overrun like so many other places in the Mediterranean.
and they used again back to religion. They used the prophecies that had come out telling them to unify
Hmm.
with the Romans, which is who they were, to unify with them and not make war against them if you can, basically. And
Hmm.
that's what they did. They
Yeah.
they they unified with them. That was it was It's very interesting when you go back and look at the history of it because people think that the Byzantine quote unquote empire just kind of fizzled, and it didn't. It
No,
was it was literally a conglomerate, basically.
it
They just
was.
became the other thing.
They had some civil wars in there. You had
Yeah.
Genghis Khan uprising, but keep in mind, a lot of people look at the picture of his son. Well, when you go to a lot of encyclopedias or on the internet, they show you a picture of his son Kublai, who was a half
Yep.
Chinese kid, right? And he was brilliant. Um,
It
but
is.
uh, you know, Genghis himself was a redheaded, blue-eyed Turk.
Yep.
I mean, he's
And
an
a bit of a
Ottoman.
monster.
Yeah, yeah,
Just a
yeah.
bit.
He's not an Asian man at all. It's just
Oh,
his family was put in charge of uh, managing that area of the Altai, which we call Mongolia today.
yep. Fascinating how much of
Yeah,
history is it's intentional too, right?
yeah.
They don't lie necessarily, they just don't tell you the truth.
Well, they
And
expect you to
or the
be
full
ignorant
truth.
because you're not going to bother yourself with it. And
Yes.
I understand why. I get it. People are busy with their lives. They don't have time to do the shit I do, right?
Yeah.
I get it. But you are lied to. Your history that you know is probably, I'd be say lucky if it's 10% true.
I mean, look how much they lie about just the last 20 years,
Or
right?
just
The people
last
in
year
power.
of what
Yeah,
a
or
w-
2020 to now, for
yeah,
crying out
what a
loud.
recession is. They changed that definition right in front of
Yeah.
us, didn't they?
Ah! People are like history's definitely real, but they're lying today. No,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, no, you get it all the time. You see it. You can see it happen all the time. History is constantly being manipulated,
Yep.
and it is what it is. But it's still also fascinating to talk about. And here we are talking about Rome again. But that's what men do.
We like Rome, ladies. It's cool. That's it. There's this idea, these articles out here. Why do men talk? Because it's cool.
Because
That's
it's
why.
cool. Yeah, Grimlock and I like talking about Rome, and Thundara likes what is that? Big black cock bulls.
That's right. If I'm going to talk about men, That's what I'm talking
That's what
about.
he
Get out of
wants.
here with
He
your
wants
with your
that.
weak little effeminate boys.
He
Get out of
wants.
here.
He wants. Jesus Christ. Well, don't come to Asia then, because you just throw a rock and you're going to hit one.
Wow.
I mean, they're
Yeah, they're
everywhere. They're
everywhere.
so
yeah.
little, dude.
It's a plague, a
Yeah.
pestilence of it.
Just
Well, if
little.
they're so little, I mean, if you throw the rock, will you hit it?
I have fair aim, Grimlock. Thank you. But there
Well,
are
I'm
so
just
many
saying.
scrawny kids.
Hey, look, we can make this a fucking Olympic sport. If we can make curling Olympic sports, we can make rock throwing at Asian peens an Olympic sport.
That's fair. We could. But you know the funny thing, when I go to these little festivals at nighttime, that they have the little yatais or kiosks, and they sell
Yep.
beer. Of course, everyone's drinking beer, everyone's laughing, and having good old fun time. And inevitably, because I live in an area that has a lot of fishermen, is kind of one of the main industries around here. And of course, they're strong, tough men. Of course, they are. They're fishermen, right? It's not
Yeah.
a joke job. But when
hard
they get
job.
drinking, they always want to arm wrestle with me. Or they want to arm wrestle, and I indulge them, because we're having it's all good fun, right? But
Yeah.
it's like, one after the other, just boom, 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 boom. It's like they know year after year after year, they've never beat me once in arm wrestling, but they gonna keep trying.
They give it the old college, don't they?
I mean,
Jump in there.
shit. In my life, white men have had a hard time beating me in wrestling, arm
They
wrestling.
You're a
no,
bear
they
of a
just
man.
want to tell drunken fishermen stories to other drunken fishermen.
They do. You're
So
right.
if they tell the other drunks about the night they arm wrestled a kaiju, they got something to talk about.
They do. I remember one time a few years back, we were quite drunk. Somehow someone convinced someone to set up a Guinness kiosk. And everyone was like just chugging Guinness all night. They had like I don't know, 4 kegs back there or something like that, dude. Oh my god. But
That's a lot of Guinness.
we and of course Japanese can't
Had those
drink.
poor dudes chugging molasses.
Yeah, well, I know, but they can't. The Japanese can't drink anyway. Asians can't drink at high quantities. But anyway, we're having a great, good old fun time. And I remember there was one of the arm wrestlings, because they would usually be arm wrestle on the little ramen board, because they have little ramen
Yeah.
kiosks. There's a board, and there was literally 3 of these fishermen against me, and they were all pulling as hard as they could, little darlings. And I would just I was like, "Gambate, gambate," right? And they didn't even push me past halfway. I just stood the whole time and then dropped it. But I mean, but the thing is, you say, "Oh, that's a fish story." But no, it's not. I don't think you understand of the strength difference of a Scandinavian versus a little Asian man. It's
I told
it's
you
not even
before.
close, dude. It's ridiculous.
They've done studies on this, and your average Scandinavian woman, your average Viking woman, is as strong or stronger than your average Indian man
Probably.
in grip strength, even in upper body strength, because they're
It's the
just
bone thickness, dude.
yeah, they got the
Yeah.
thick bones, they got that tight muscle.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Brock Lesnar. You can tell what his genome is just by
well,
looking at him. He's a
he-
monster.
He's a freak.
What he's saying is, if a Scandinavian woman grabs your drunk and she wants snoo is going to happen.
Unless
give
you're
it
a
to-
Scandinavian man, I
That's
think.
right. Unless you're
yes.
also a Viking bear man. Yes.
Magnuson von Magnuson. Yes.
And then you have to call in the Wyatt squad. It's like what's happening?
Right. But no, it is insane, the difference. Those little triangular shaped road ties. You see them all over the
Yep.
place, right? Now I'm sure both of you guys could go out and you could get because they usually have a little gap between the triangular. Put your hand in there, one hand, and you probably get that off the one end of it off the ground. You're not going to be able to lift it, of course not, but you'll get it off the ground. You could lift it an inch or two. I'm sure you can.
Yeah.
Right. Just put your back into it, right? Now when I first came here, I used to do blue collar stuff too, because I was just starting my business and I needed money, and I loved it actually. But they would use these road ties to put wires underneath and around it to hold the scaffolding, to add rigidity to the scaffolding, right? Which is what I
Mhm.
did. I was with a scaffolding building company. And but these guys, you get like, 6 of them on there just to get one little edge up to get that thing under there. And I saw him struggling with it. I went over and just put one hand under, lifted up, put the wire around it, and was done, right? I mean, because it's only one end of one of those road ties. It's not that heavy, right? But it takes
Yeah.
6 of them to get that thing up, dude. It's radical, and it's not because back home, the difference between us is not as great. Depends on the person, really.
Mhm.
But over here, it's wow different, dude. The strength level is not even comparable. It's ridiculous. I like these little K cars. I've had several situations where I've gone and grabbed the whole of the wheel well and lifted them up and out of the way, right? And
Yes.
you could do it too, right?
Yeah, they're not
It's
big.
it,
Yeah.
it's not it's the for us it's not it's like not a thing, but for them it's like "Ooh, hallelujah" or something. It's unbelievable. I used to make just to goof around. I go up and take the little the little teeny trucks they have. You seen them?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those little teeny trucks. I go up and I throw the clutch out, put it in neutral, and I go pick it up in the back, and I run around the work yard like it was a wheelbarrow. It was funny. It was funny. But
That should have been. Now, see, that's when you need a camera.
yeah, no, I used to. They thought that was hilarious. But the thing is, you could do it too, right? This
Yeah.
is not some amazing feat of strength. But to them it is. It's just
Yeah.
radical. The strength difference is shocking, actually.
It's very it's actually quite fascinating when you break it down, when you get into the genetics of it and why it is the way that it is and
It's bone
what
thickness
caused
is what
it.
it is. Yeah.
Bone thickness and the fact that Scandinavia is not an easy place to live, and the people had to be
No,
beasts to survive it, and
they had to
they
be. It's
became
true.
beasts to survive it.
They did. But I mean, Ben can attest to all of this. He lived here. I'm sure he has very similar experiences because he's a big, I mean, he's not my size, but he's a big burly
He was
German
about to
dude.
say he's a big old. About to
Big
say
old
he's a big
burly.
Old
old
bear.
kaiju too.
Yeah. Well, no, he's not. He's nowhere near my size. But I don't know what his height is, but no, he's a big
Well,
burly
you're saying
dude. Yeah.
he just said you're
Yeah.
Godzuki, Ben.
He
That's
is
what he just said.
Godzuki. He is. To me, he's Godzuki. Yeah. But yeah, he's a big old strong boy. He's a big strong boy.
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
Sasquatch level hairy.
Yes. So he's actually a man bear. I
He
got you.
is. He
So
is.
he's so he's a member.
Yeah.
So he's a member of Alpha Flight.
Yeah. Yeah. He could be. Yeah, that's true. But I'm sure he can attest to it because he's compared to them, he's way stronger. He said, "I'm more Yeti." Fair enough. We're gonna go with that. Or a silverback. You are a silverback. That's true. But I mean, Ben, you know what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
shocking the
Wait,
strength difference. Ben knows. I mean,
is
he
is
lived
he?
here. He knows.
You mean he was the Yeti who dry humped Hulk Hogan back at Halloween Havoc in
Oh no.
'85?
Get him, Ben. Get him.
No, he's not tall enough, unfortunately.
It's the Yeti!
I don't know what Ben's
It's
height is.
the
He's not a little
Yeti!
dude, though. He's not a little dude. Ben, what is your height, Ben? You're like what, 6 feet, maybe 5'10", something like that. He's not
Yeah.
small. He's not. Ben's not small,
Yeah,
and
that's
he's
what I
thick,
am.
and he's a strong boy too. He's not some weak little geek boy. He's not. Not at all.
Yeah. It's interesting how many of us there are around this particular group, right? Because my boy Grimlock's a big boy too. Uh, I'm I'm basically a warthog man. Whatever a werehog is, that's me. If you look mythologically, that's what I am. I'm short little legs, short little arms, and then all power in the middle. It's obscene how
He's about
strong my
Yeah,
core is.
that's about right. I say, Ben. Yeah.
Yeah,
Around 6 feet, I
and
thought he was. Yeah.
to the point where I'm not in great shape like I used to be when I was younger, but I can still just with ease bust out 100 sit-ups. Boom, because my core is just crazy strong.
Yeah. No,
And
I'm not doing that. No.
I do it all the
No.
time.
I'll do
Um,
20, and I could do 20 and not show the pain. I can do that. I can do that.
I found a cheat, Chester, a hack. Well, I don't know if it'd work over there because Japanese people sleep on the ground like savages, but do it
Sure.
in bed.
Oh
Do your
yeah, that's
sit-ups in
fine.
bed. Better on your back. You get a little bit more cushion when you're going up and down. I've been doing them, and I wake up in the morning and I hit them. to bust them out, and then I
Yeah.
get up, stretch, do my deal. It's nice.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
Yeah,
And you feel
I
better
push
too
my
when you get up
rock.
and you
I
move.
push my rock. I got my rock, and
You
that's what I
do.
do. You do you.
You are not helping the stereotype that white men are Neanderthals pushing
Yes.
the damn rock
I
up a
push
hill.
my rock. Okay. But no, I remember this, Ben. It's true. He said he used
It
to be
really
in
does
a.
sound more like a kaiju the more he describes himself. He's like, he's got this rock. And then to everybody else, he's describing it as a rock. This shit's
It's a
probably 10 feet tall.
it's a boulder on the mountain. I run up the mountain. I push on the rock. I've yet to move the rock. But it's isometrics, man. But anyway, Ben says I used to be way into powerlifting, bodybuilding. I used to go to the gym in Psyche with Eric. Eric is a swole Dutchman, by the way. I love Eric. To work out. I mean, the other foreigners here are such a bunch of geek pussies. They were so afraid of him. I fucking loved Eric. He was awesome. They were just pussies, dude. They were so scared of Eric. It's like, well, he's just a fun-loving, he's a big boy, but I mean, he's just a fun-loving drinker. He get a little bit loud when he drank, but I loved Eric. He was
Yeah.
good fun. To work out, and we usually get a little audience to watch us lift. I bet you did, Ben. Yeah, I bet you did. I
Yeah.
used to go down the B&G and in Tsurumi actually and do the same thing, but I had no audience. It was just me. It was why I went there. Just
Nice and
privacy.
private.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't done that in a
Yeah.
long time. My routine is run up the mountain, push on the rock, run down. Done.
Push the rock. Push the damn rock.
I push the rock.
I find that hilarious that you are literally a caveman living in
Yes.
Japan.
Thank
You
you.
just come out of your cave, run up the hill, push on the rock, and run back down.
That's right. I push on the rock.
All he needs is a moat at this point.
It's become there's a god in the rock,
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's why. It's funny that I wouldn't doubt it, Ben. Eric once got in a fight with the Oita basketball team. Yeah, I'm sure he did. He's a rugby boy, yeah. I liked Eric though, but a lot of people were scared of Eric. I don't understand why. He was very smiley, happy dude. Actually, Ben. I mean, so many people were afraid of Eric, but he was such a nice guy. I never understood that. He and I got along really well with Eric.
Maybe he bullied everybody else when you weren't around, Justin.
I don't think so. I think it was just his size, and he is.
I like how these kaiju are just sitting here going, "Oh, he was just a joyous lad," and everybody else is like, "He's going to tear up our village."
Well, he's just bombastic, right?
Yeah.
Where I'm not. I'm
Animated.
much more chilled and I'm much more laid back, so I don't kind of create that effect. I think maybe I don't know what effect I create. Eric was just a big dude. Yeah. I always get along with him as well. Yeah, no, I loved Eric. He was a good dude. I enjoyed him.
My rule,
Hard worker
I've said
too.
this on here. My rule has always been, if I don't think I can take you or survive you, especially, you're my buddy. I do whatever I got to do to make you my friend.
That's fair.
And that is where I pay my tribute. I pay my tribute to the man who I know I can't take. So I have a friend who he's not a big guy. He's not that big a guy. He's about the same size as me, maybe a little taller. But you just can't hurt him. I've watched this dude take hammers off the head, actual hammers off his head. He just nothing. Doesn't affect him. No effect.
Some guys.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what he's made of, but I'm good on fighting that. I'm like, nah, you can't hurt him. What do you got? You got to shoot him. That's the only option you got. Shoot him or stab him.
You got to joint him is what you got to do. But
that is how you, because me and him have wrestled, and that's what I did.
That's how you deal with the big dudes. But Ben, I'm bigger than you and Eric were, but no one ever had that feel about me. I was a chill guy, right? I mean, I'm not dense and obtuse and not realizing people's opinion of me, am I? I was the chill guy. No one was afraid of me, right? Let us know, Ben.
Uh-oh, you're giving him a lot of power right now.
I know.
You're giving a lot of power.
Because I don't think so. I mean, because Ben was chill. Everyone liked Ben. No, I don't think anyone was afraid of Ben. And he's bigger than all the Japanese, of course. And Eric, he was a bit bombastic, but he was a nice guy, though. I mean, he, don't fuck with him. But then again, don't fuck with anybody. I mean, it's kind of the general
because you
rule.
never know. Them little guys sometimes can surprise you. You just never know.
Oh, no. I always worried about the little dudes when I was a bouncer.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Always.
Because most of the time, big dudes, big guys, they don't really want to fight, but the little dudes do, and they might do something crazy.
Yeah, they got
But
a
in
lot of
my
attitude.
experience, a lot of big guys just
Oh,
they
good.
want the fight to be over.
That's perfect. Well, my name is Chester Cornelius Busby III, so it's as it should be. You were the artsy fartsy musician. Perfect.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
What I played rock and roll and blues. How the fuck was I artsy fartsy, you dick?
I told you were giving him
I
power.
know. It's funny. Yeah, but I don't think I've ever had that kind of vibe. I don't think I did. Eric did, but it was mainly because he was bombastic, I think.
Yeah.
But,
Well, a lot of people don't know how to handle loud, as you said, bombastic people.
Yeah.
Because if you haven't grown up around that, like half of my family is that way, and they're big too. Like my dad, especially when my dad was a drinker, that was his personality. He'd get loud. He wouldn't necessarily get mean. He'd fight you, but he wouldn't get mean. He'd just get loud, and people didn't like that. So,
Yeah,
and he was a big guy. He was like 6'2", 300 pounds. He was a big man. And a lot of people I've noticed too, some people have this chip on their shoulder and they see a big guy and that's who they want to challenge. And I'm just like, what are you doing? What are you're like 5 foot nothing, 100 and nothing, and you're out here challenging a guy who's 6'3", 300 pounds. Unless you're a master at some form of martial art, you ain't winning that fight.
Yeah,
You're just not.
And the big dude probably don't want any part of violence anyway. More than
Yeah,
likely.
he's just trying
Big
to chill
dudes
out.
are
He's like,
more
I'm good,
chill,
bro.
right? Yeah, that's
Yep.
true. Ben, you remember that it was here when you were here. You remember that creepy British guy? I hated that guy. I just wanted to like tie him to a light pole or something. I mean, no, he was this creepy ass, and he was creeping on the girls too. And I don't like that. I get kind of overly protective of the females.
Yeah.
You know. But
The bear in you.
who was that? I think it was British, Ben. That creepy dude. You know who I'm talking about. That
See?
creepy guy.
British. Every time.
Well,
Brits.
it is what it is.
I told you, they're a mess. As a whole block, as a whole ethnicity, they're a
Yeah,
mess.
I don't know why
over there.
Ben's not in here. He should be in here talking to us. I don't know what are you doing, Ben.
Probably being
Uh, I'm gonna tell a secret of Ben's that he hasn't mentioned, but he and I have talked about privately.
No,
Our
you're
boy
right.
Ben,
Yeah.
our boy Ben, and this is a good thing. I'm giving him props. Has been on a weight loss kick the last little while. He's down 60 pounds and he's killing it. So he needs
Aw,
claps.
Good job,
needs
Ben.
claps.
Claps for Ben,
That's
man.
what we
That's good to
need.
hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
is.
lost myself over about 90 pounds. I dropped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got about 85.
So you took one
off,
good
I think.
shit. That's
I did. I did. Yeah. But no, that's good to hear, Ben. That's good to hear. You gotta, yeah, especially as you're getting older, just kind of drop the weight,
Yeah.
dude. You don't need to be the perfect weight. You don't need to be a CrossFitter. For God's sake, please
No.
don't be a CrossFitter.
Don't do
But
that
yeah,
to
get
yourself.
yourself down and live a little bit happier.
And it's crazy because I say this, but it's just true. I go to the gym and I'll lift weights, and I'll be lifting the amount of weight that I've lost, and I'm like, how the fuck did I walk around with all this weight?
Right.
How did I live
Right.
like this?
Yeah.
And but it was. I mean, I did it. It happened.
No, and
It's
the thing
crazy.
is, when you're losing weight, there are many ways to do so. Make sure you're lifting weight as you're losing weight, though.
Yeah.
So you don't
Yes.
lose the resistance your
You don't want
body
to lose your
has.
muscle.
Yeah.
You don't want to lose your muscle tone.
It's
Because what a
important.
lot of people do is they go on these diets, either crash or just regular diets, and they'll lose weight, but they're losing a lot of muscle. So if they stumble on their diet or whatever, as they get lower, their energy levels will go down because their metabolism's a lot lower because they don't have the muscle needed to keep the metabolism high. And that means they're literally just crashing. They get miserable, they get depressed, they get low energy, they get irritable, and it's because they have low calories and their metabolism is tanked, and it's all a problem. And that can be avoided if you do it right with how much you cut your food out, and if you keep power training, if you keep
Yeah.
your muscles as
Just keep
strong
at
as
it.
you can, and it'll keep your metabolism high enough that you don't have the emotional drop, because everybody's been there. You haven't eaten in a while, or you haven't eaten all day, you just get cranky, get hangry. uh, it's just how you're wired. It's hormonal. It's not really your fault.
Mhm.
But if you do that for months and you keep lowering your calories and you keep not eating as much as your body wants you to eat, because your body wants you to be fat, it becomes a serious problem. So I
Yeah.
absolutely agree. When you're losing weight, keep strength training.
Yeah,
Keep
yeah.
doing. You don't have to go
Well,
crazy, but do
no,
some
but once you
strength
get to
training.
the weight you want, you can back up off of it. But just during that
Yep.
process, yeah, you definitely
Yep.
want to, it's important. Which is how that's why I was doing the gym thing. I was like religious about it when I was losing weight. And then I just started because I just kind of jog, but I didn't want to go all the way down and all the way up. So I wanted a shorter period because my mornings are busy. So I just kind of started going. There's a bunch of trails going to the mountain here, and I just started trying to take them. And one of the trails I took, there was a giant boulder there. I was like,
He
So
said,
I
boulder push.
boulder push, Russian isometric push. Not literal. I just push on that thing as hard as I can for 10 minutes and just stress on it.
I love the Cro-Magnon energy coming off of you right
Thank
now. I
you.
love that.
My ancestors.
Yeah, they're speaking through your blood. Push rock. Push rock hard.
Push rock hard. It's true.
First thing in the morning too. It's like, do I take a shower? Do I get coffee? No, push rock.
Push rock.
No, coffee comes after. Push rock.
You should market this, Chester, the caveman exercise, the caveman routine. Listen, you go into your woods. You got woods nearby somewhere. Find them. Go in there. Find a rock and push it. That's
Push
it.
rock.
That's it. Just
And
push
make
rock.
sure you find a small little teeny rock too. It'd be funnier. It just disappears under your hands, right? That's one of the things with me. It's tough. I got these giant mitts, right?
Bear claws.
Yeah, no, and it's a pain in the ass, dude. Anyway, hey there, Chester. Let me ask you a question. What's the situation with Taiwan, Roger? Actually, things are pretty chill here. In that regard, of course, there's a constant state of readiness with the Taiwanese. But the Chinese are going through a bubble pop, an economic stress, and they've tried to blame other people and do as the CCP normally does, but it
As
ain't
they do, yeah.
working. There's so much internal turmoil going on, and this is kind of interesting thing I think it's going on if you kind of look at Israel because it brings the whole world into the conversation, right? Um,
Yep.
you know, it's very suspicious how this all took place as far as it happening. Not that Hamas are a bunch of savages. No, that's not surprising at all.
No.
But I kind of wonder if there is any political chicanery going on. I kind of wonder if they really thought about it because, which makes me doubt it, because Lebanon is in absolute disaster mode. There's not much they can do. Their economy's on the floor. They have no real leadership. They're kind of governmentless right now. People would say, well, Hezbollah is ultimately in charge, and I guess there's truth to that. But Lebanon's on the frickin' floor. Syria's on the frickin' floor. Iran has been, they're doing better. They certainly making some money here or there, but they're not in any amazing situation. Russia's got their own damn problems to worry about. China is underwater. The best of them probably are India, who are on the up and coming. But they're not interested in war. Yeah, but they're not interested in war at all. At all.
No, they're not in a position for a real war.
They don't want one. Yeah, no, they don't want one. So this whole Middle East going to pop third World War III thing, I don't know about that, dude. I mean, who's really there to make it? You're going to get a lot of these Muslim countries. The people, we're not talking about people. We're talking about governments. These religious governments, and of course, they want to kill the Jew, as they say all the time. But they can't because America will throttle them, right? So what do they? So they fund these jihadi groups, right?
The Israelis also, even though they're not supposed to, have effectively admitted now that they have nukes.
Oh, we know they have nukes forever, dude.
Of course we do, but they're not supposed to. You see, it was one of them open secrets.
Oh,
but
okay.
they have them, and they're like,
right.
yeah, if you fuck with us, we'll nuke you. Basically, is what they've been out here saying, or their surrogates like Ben Shapiro have been out there saying, that's on the table, right? If they try to push us against the wall, whatever.
Ben's pissed.
He's an angry man.
He is pissed.
A little bit angry.
I don't blame him though. I mean, do you?
I don't. I just wish he showed any level of candor equal when America is under threat in any way. I've never seen it.
Well, I
And
mean,
I've been
how many
watching Ben
times have I said
Stiller.
on they're grooming him to be a Knesset member in Israel? How many times have I said that on the show?
Well, what's funny is somebody basically asked him why he doesn't do whatever they call it over there. There's some pledge they take. Why he doesn't take it to Israel and become a citizen of Israel. And he said, and I quote, because he can do more good for Israel in America with his audience. So I don't know. I agree with you. I think that's what they want. I think very
That's what they
powerful
want.
people
Yeah.
in Israel want him there. And he probably wants it, to be honest, because let's be honest, he loves Israel far more than he does America. He's
Oh, sure.
very obvious about it. He's
Yeah.
very blatant about it. And that's fine. I'm not saying he can't. It's just that's what it is. So I wouldn't be surprised if down the line, when he's a little older, he doesn't have that in the
Yeah,
cards.
I feel it's coming. But one thing that has there's so many things we could talk about what's going on right now, but one thing that really took me aback, I guess, and something that I happily don't miss is
Yep.
because what the Jews, because Americans are Jews. I mean, I'm sorry, Americans, you might consider yourselves Protestants, and that's fine. But being a Christian, you cannot disconnect yourself from the Jew. You can't. It's
Mm,
impossible. It's built into your religion. But beyond that, you were raised, all of us were raised with Jewish sensibility because of movies
mm,
and TVs and all that kind of stuff. We have a Jewish sensibility, Americans, whether you realize it or not. And one of the things that I forgot that I could never stand is the fucking testimonial. Oh, boy, dude. I mean, just seeing all these testimonials, like, oh, I'm back in America again. Oh,
yeah.
testimonials. But see, but that is genius though, because
Yeah.
the Israelis, those 150, 200 hostages and those 1,300 dead or whatever it is, um, they have a face. They have a story. They have a family. They have a story, right?
Hmm.
Those Palestinian people, and most of them are Hamas that are dead, but some civilians got caught up in it, of course, obviously, right?
What happened?
They have no
Yeah.
face. They're faceless, right? So even as much as I freaking abhor the testimonial, it's genius. It is smart.
It is.
It
It's,
puts a
it's
face
and
on
that's
your.
why it exists
That's why it
right
exists.
there.
Yeah, right there. Yeah. But oh my God, the testimonials, dude, the testimonials. Of course, I grew up in the Protestant church, a Baptist, Northern Baptist church, and a Southern Baptist as well when we were traveling. But whew, testimonials, man. There was this one guy. His name was
Uh,
Ron. Now, Ron used to be a bad
Often.
boy. He used to do the cocaine. And
Cocaine.
Ron used to love get up and give his testimonial how he was a cocaine head and how he ruined his nose and had multiple surgeries to be able to smell again and this fucking testimonial. And this guy is the creepiest pedo looking guy you've ever seen in your life, right? And they put him in charge of the youth.
Mm,
Oh man, that guy.
but he was happy.
That guy, the fucking testimonials, man. Goddamn testimonials. I'm assuming everybody here has been to church as a kid, or even
Of
currently.
course.
I'm sure we all have. We're American. I mean,
Yeah.
you
Pretty
you went
common.
to church as a kid. What about you, Grimlock? Where did you church when you were a kid?
Where did you church?
Where did I church? The house. I mean, church. We tried it for a little while, and it's like, yeah, this ain't for us.
Yeah, but you did it though. Now,
Yeah.
was it a Northern Christian, Southern Christian, Midwestern Christian, California Christian, which I don't even know if that qualifies as a term. But which one? Which one?
Well,
Where in
It
the
would be
where in the
Midwest.
been
world were you? Where in America were you when you were doing the church?
in both New York and South.
Okay, so
I've
New
done, I've done a
England,
little bit.
hard-nosed New England, Northern Baptist. All right. Now, how about you, Thundera?
I grew up in a what was labeled as an independent Baptist church.
Okay,
Uh, so the only governing body was the church itself. There is nobody above it. And there's obviously rules and bylaws and blah blah blah.
sure,
But
sure.
yeah, the church itself was. its own organization. And I personally, because I don't like organized religion as a practice, I think it's silly. But I think if I were to attend a church again, it would be one
Yeah.
that's independent. I don't like the concept of top-down authoritarianism pretending to be religion. I don't like
Yeah,
it.
no, that is true. That's something that always bugged me. But Roger said he was there this morning. But one thing I have to say, when I was a kid, though, Pastor Don was our pastor, and he was just a good man. He was just a good
Yep,
person that helped
yep.
people. He was a nice guy. After
We had
that,
one
yeah, yeah.
named
But
Pastor Tim. He was like that.
Yeah, just a nice guy. He was the boss, and he was the patriarch in a good way. When he passed away, they went through a slew of people to try to replace him, and of course you can't replace that kind of person so easily.
Right.
And it just was freaking train wreck, dude. And,
Yep.
and therefore, my point from my religious experience, uh, the pastor, the leader, the patriarch, it's really important position. It needs to
Yeah.
be a righteous, solid dude. It's got to
Correct.
be. If you got a slinky, corrupt guy, or you got some, zealot
Skeezy.
or skeezy or
Yeah.
whatever it is, it ain't got to work for you, man. You need a
No.
just a you need
So
you need Mr. Rogers type.
so growing up around here in the local, church community, Christian community, whatever you want to call it. Like I said, our church was independent, so we didn't have anybody over us. But there were other churches who were members of, you know, Baptist conferences and whatever.
Mhm.
And then there was obviously the non-denominational corporate churches, which I think are nothing but a scam and should be shut down immediately. But
Oh,
uh,
those money
there,
making places, those
yeah, there was one around
prosperity
here.
churches, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes. There was one around here called Cornerstone. I think it's still around, but the pastor of it, not only did he get caught literally streaking out in the country
Oh wow.
by somebody I actually knew, one of my best friend's mothers saw him. There was a whole lot of very shady goings on with the money, and I'm of the opinion that if you're going to be a man of the Christian faith, preacher, pastor, whatever, you shouldn't be rich. You can have some money, that's okay, but you shouldn't be making millions of
No,
dollars off your
no,
church.
you're
And this
missing the
guy
point. You're missing the point.
was
Yeah,
making millions of dollars off his church. He had a
yeah,
massive house, a
yeah.
property. He doesn't
These
have it anymore, but
prosperity
he had it.
churches.
Yeah, and that right there. That's the stuff that gives churches and Christianity and organized religion in general, or part of it anyway, gives it a really bad name.
Yep.
And I honestly don't think it should be allowed because it's
Yeah,
just a
no,
money making enterprise. That's all it is.
I agree. And no, Roger, I'm not surprised at all that Grimlock's not a holy roller. He doesn't. He seems like a Northern Baptist guy, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Holy rollers are a different thing. But yeah, no, I 100% agree with that nonsense. I mean, like with Pastor Don, like I said, he's actually a very good man. I can give a good example. The church got their 10% tithe just like everywhere else, but they weren't super rich. No one was paid lots of money. The money was put toward the church building itself and church activities.
yep,
The pastor's house was across a giant parking lot. It was a normal house, completely normal. It wasn't a poor house. It was just a normal house.
yep,
And several times a week, his wife would open that up for Bible studies and stuff like that. So it's like most of the time they didn't have much privacy anyway.
right,
So, I mean, but this is what a pastor is. That's a lifestyle. That's a life dedication. That's not a
yeah,
job, right?
yes,
It's
I
not.
agree. And I think, and like I said, I don't care if you're a pastor who happens to have money, maybe you have it from a family or something. That I don't think you have to be a pauper to be a man of
No, you
cloth, if
should
you
you
will.
should be normal. Yeah.
But if the way you make your money is just from your church, and what I mean by that in great amounts, right?
Yeah, you're talking about the
Um,
prosperity church movement. I know what
yeah,
you're talking about. Yeah.
that's a problem, and that shouldn't be. It should be illegal. Honestly, I listen. They get the ability to not have to pay taxes. Then they should have certain
Mhm.
regulations outside of that
Well,
that prevents them from
you
doing that.
remember Billy Graham?
Yep,
Yeah. Now Billy Graham had a giant church that made
he did.
ridiculous amounts of money. But I don't know what's going on now because Billy's dead. But Billy Graham put his money all over the world. He
Yes,
traveled all over
helping
the
people.
world. He preached. He
Yep,
put a lot of money in charity. That guy was a ridiculous, could be ridiculously wealthy, but he dumped so much money into other people, as he should.
And
Uh,
he still had lots of money at the end, but it wasn't because he was exploiting anybody. It was literally reaping what you sow because he was
yeah,
putting
no,
his money out there. They were doing investing and trying to help all over the world. And he wrote books and he did these things. And he had speaking engagement fees and stuff like that. I have no problem with a prominent preacher, evangelist, pastor, whatever, having like a speaking fee to go to a different place, especially across the world. Like I think
no,
that's
yeah, no,
reasonable.
no. Billy. I give this example because he's a big time guy, but he was a real deal, though. He was a good man,
Yep.
and his wife actually would. I remember hearing in interviews and stuff her complaining because she didn't say this, but effectively, he's so busy, he didn't even have time to spend the money anyway. But what she was complaining about is she always had to, because his weight would jump up and down, right? Because he's traveling all the time, and therefore his suit size, because he would never sit still long enough to get a suit made. So she was constantly trying to guess to make sure, because we want him to look good, right?
Yep.
Getting a suit. I remember her complaining about that in an interview. She's actually bitching that she couldn't get him to sit down long enough to get a suit measurement. Um,
That's funny.
yeah, Billy Graham. And I remember toward the end of his life, there were some people who were trying to derail and abuse his name. It didn't work,
Yeah.
thank goodness. But and
Yeah.
then keep this in mind.
I
I'm
can't
not
be the
a
only one who
Christian.
was thinking superstar.
Well, no, you're
The
talking.
moment he said Billy Graham,
Well, no, you're probably thinking of
Superstar
that
Billy.
other guy who was a sleazebag,
No, he's
prosperity
thinking of the
church.
wrestler. There was a wrestler also
Oh, Billy
named
Graham, superstar. Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
who's that other guy who was just a train wreck? Is Tammy Faye Baker, Jim Baker.
Oh
There you
yeah.
go.
Yeah, the Bakers. There's a bunch of them. America's got a serious
The
problem
prosperity churches. Yeah.
with these sorts of fake they're corporate churches. And there's other ones too that are just they have no denomination, which is fine on its face, but they do that so that they can just do whatever the heck they want. They don't have to worry about any oversight from anybody apparently because they're churches, so there's very little government oversight and there's no
yeah,
oversight of some governing body from a religious organization and they just fleece these people and I don't
Ba-
I don't
ba-
like that, man.
badass Billy Gunn. That would different conversation, Ben.
Yeah, I don't like it. I think it's one of the main things that turned me off of considering myself a Christian. I don't like Christianity as a religion. I just don't. I don't like the people that are Christians. A lot of them, they're
It get a
cowards.
bit sleazy. It can. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a
Unfortunately,
lot of sleaze. I mean, look
doesn't
how much
have to
money the
be.
Catholic Church has. Come on, bro, that's obscene. The Catholic Church's money's obscene,
Oh yeah, we
and
we don't even know how much money they got really.
there's no way to know. There's no possible way you're ever going to know. That's not obviously the
Yeah,
message of
but
Jesus.
keep in mind, you're
Not what he
talking about
was.
something very different when you bring the Catholics into this. It's
Yes.
unlike any other
Well, it's
religion on
organized religion.
earth. That is a bureaucracy. It is different.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was
Well, that's what
built
I'm
as a
saying. You have these
bureaucracy.
over here now. You have these organizations that are in multiple states that call themselves churches.
Mm.
And sure, they hold services, and I'm sure they probably do some charity work and stuff. Fine. But they're corporations. That's what they are. They can pretend that they're not all they want, but all it is at the end of the day is just a way for them to make a bunch of money without paying taxes. And listen,
Yeah,
screw the
they're
government
abusing it.
about
Yeah.
the taxes, but they're abusing the system clearly as it was intended. The reason why churches aren't supposed to pay tax is because they're supposed to be doing charity work. That's where
Yeah,
that
but
money's supposed to be going.
to be fair, people of faith have been abused forever and ever, dude. The
Yes,
faithful
that's
are
the other
always
reason.
abused. Yeah, it's just the
That's
way
the
it
other
is.
reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because, like, going back to the current conflict and all the nonsense I've seen online, um, one of the things I hear where, the Palestinians live in an open air concentration camp,
Yeah.
some kind of apartheid thing, the Israelis are not giving them water and food and electricity. Well, of course, right now they're not, which is the point. But before this incident, and it's like, excuse me, just hands up here for a second. The Israelis are not in Gaza at all. They have no positions in Gaza. I'm sure they don't go to Gaza. That would be a mistake. Um, They have no control whatsoever. It's a separate entity, a separate state. Why exactly is Israel responsible for giving the Palestinians anything? I don't understand. I mean, if Canada was dumb, which they are, and they did something and they were starving or without power, which could easily happen any second now, is it America's responsibility to help them? We would, just like the Israelis are, helping them.
Yep.
But is it our responsibility, though? It's not. It's not. It's a separate
I would
country.
say I agree with you that it's not, but responsibility in like there's different levels of responsibility. Responsibility like an obligation, no. Responsibility like that's our neighbor and they would probably help us, and they
And they
did.
do no, but they don't.
Yeah,
The Canadians would, but the
yeah, that's what
Palestinians
I'm
are not
saying.
going to
The
help them.
Canadians.
No, you reverse
That's what
this
I'm
thing,
saying.
shit ain't going to happen.
That's the
But
difference.
keep
It's
in
the
mind
reciprocity.
that power and water and stuff, the Israelis do help them.
Yes,
They give them
yes.
job
So
visas. They don't have to do this.
I do not think that the nation of Israel, which has been a nation for like 80 years now, has any obligation to support another nation
At
or
all.
another group of people at all.
No,
Period. Just like
it's not
America
their
doesn't. I wish we
responsibility.
would stop. In fact, we don't have an obligation to do so, but I think there is an argument you can make, not necessarily in that case because there's a whole lot of bad blood, but in like America, Canada, or America, Mexico, yeah, I mean, we're right here. Why wouldn't we help them?
Which we do.
But in their situation, it's obviously much more contentious.
It
So
is.
yeah,
But it's just some of the arguments I hear people coming up with, and it's like, yeah, what? Did you
yeah,
think it
it's
through
silly.
at all? And
And
then
this is
so many people sitting there and, praising and parading for Palestine. And it's like, dude, once again, who cares what the Israelis said? The Hamas showed you. And here's the thing. Let's talk about the Palestinians for a second, shall we?
uh-oh.
No, no, seriously. Now, um, keep in mind, Palestine, the Philistines, Palestine, has been a word that's been around for a long time, and
Yep,
really it was the British that reinstated the area of Palestine. They're the ones that were using the word, 100 years ago. Um,
yep,
and but no one in Palestine was calling themselves Palestinian. They were either Jew, Christian, or Arab.
that's right.
So calling yourself Palestinian is a rather new thing as far as this current geopolitical situation. That aside, however, um, these Palestinians they elected Hamas. And now people say, yeah, but then they killed all their competitors and then they became tyrannical dictators. Well,
Eh,
we
what
know most of the
democracy stuff?
Palestinians still happily support them, though. Still,
Yeah,
every time they or any other jihadi group do some awful thing, we see Palestinians and all the other Muslims dancing in the street. But let's not go to that obvious visual thing you can go look up on the internet over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Let's just go here back to this election that happened back in 2005 that put Hamas, because remember the PLO used to be in charge. Yasser Arafat, of
yep,
course, being a very famous figure of the PLO. But the Palestinian people, the Gaza, and not even there, also in Judea, which for some reason we call West Bank. I don't know why, but Judea, that place.
mm,
That place has been called Judea forever. But whatever. So they voted for this. Now here's the thing. What were their choices back then? You have like Palestinian Freedom Party. Of course these are in Arabic, but Palestinian Freedom Party. The Freedom for Palestine Party was another one. You had the PLO, which is the Palestinian Liberation Organization. You have all these kind of freedom, liberty, freedom, liberty, freedom, liberty. It makes sense. Most government bodies kind of like to go with those words, right? But
yep,
they voted for Hamas. What does Hamas mean? Well, it translates quite easily as unspeakable violence.
yep.
It's a word, you see. It's a Semitic word. There's another word that's very similar to it called haram, right? This whole haram thing, you see. It's a very similar word in its meaning. So they literally, the Palestinians, you know, enthusiastically voted for the Unspeakable Violence Party.
Yes, that's right. Yes, correct.
but yet they're
Uh,
innocent.
Chester, I remind you that Hitler himself was almost democratically elected.
Oh no, he
But
he was a populist movement, of course.
yeah,
But also keep in mind that at that time, the person in charge of Palestine, which was the entire area, by the way, once
correct.
again British terminology, was I can't remember his name, but it was an Arab
Yes.
guy, and he was a brutal son of a bitch, and he
Yep.
was a good old buddy, friend, buddy with the old Adolf.
He liked him.
He
He liked
did.
Uncle
They had
Adolf.
many conversations talking about them
Yeah.
damn Jews. Yeah.
They weren't
Um,
friendly about it. They weren't
no, they
friends with
weren't.
the
He was pretty
Jews.
bad.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that I keep seeing people. The Palestinians are innocent. Well, I mean, in a
Well,
certain
nobody.
light, I guess,
Listen,
but
unless you're a
not
child, you're probably
really.
not innocent. Calm down, right? Like that word gets thrown around a lot. Innocent, innocent, innocent.
Yeah.
We need to calm down. In my estimation, unless you're very young or very, very mentally disabled, you are not innocent.
No,
You're just not.
and if you think back to the thing that they love to reference all the time, Germany. And we look at the Germans. There were plenty of Germans that didn't like what was going on. They were scared, but they shut their
Yes,
mouths and they let it happen. They just didn't look
that's right.
out the window, right? And did we give them a pass? No, we didn't. We carpet bombed the shit out of them. We
Yeah,
blew their cities to smithereens. We killed millions of them, right? Because they
yep.
needed to be stopped. Now, I understand the idea of war, this whole thing of war crime. I keep hearing this. It's like, dude, war is a crime. You
Yes,
morons,
yes. It's
right?
evil.
It's
There is
evil.
no such thing as a
I
good
get
war.
it.
It doesn't
But
exist.
this weird odd comparisons uh to what's going on, because the Palestinians are equally culpable as any other country that allows their government to do evil shit. Like, for instance, I'm an American. Now, if
Yeah,
some terrorist group or some opposition group to America, which there are a lot, was able to get some kind of foothold in America and cause an incredible amount of damage, I would be upset because I'm an American. I would be upset because I'm human, but I'd also get it because the American government does despicable shit all the time, right? I get it.
Yep.
yeah.
I understand it. I wouldn't like it, but I get it,
No,
right?
I understand it.
Yeah, I
I understand it
understand it.
completely.
So,
Yeah,
these arguments I've been seeing are really, really dumb. And the thing is, this is not the first time we Muslims, everyone lies.
yeah,
Everyone's propaganda is quite cultural in how they go about it because of how
yes,
they perceive it, right? So, I mean, the Jews certainly lie, Israelis, whatever, everyone lies, right? But
yeah.
one of the things the Muslims do quite a bit in these situations is lie about the hurting and injury of children. Right,
They
we've
do
seen
that a
them do
lot.
this
Yeah,
many times. There has been several false reports come out of Gaza right now in regards to there was even one that was so egregious. They're running around with this poor child is injured. It's a freaking plastic doll, right? I mean, this is what they do, and of course we know people are actually getting hurt. I'm sure there are actual hurt children. I'm sure there are.
yes,
But they have to do this whole lie thing, and we're seeing a lot of it right now because they're desperate. Because Hamas did some really evil shit to kids, and people don't like
allegedly.
that. Well, yeah, bullshit. They showed us what they did. This is the thing of all these people making these comments. I could give a shit what Israel has to say. I don't care.
Yeah,
Hamas told me,
correct.
right?
Well, that's what I was telling people, and because people they don't like to hear this. But the truth of the matter is, you can't trust any damn thing coming out of there right now.
No,
Nothing.
no, you
Not a
can't.
thing. I don't care if you see it with your eyes. I don't care if you
Especially
hear it with your ears.
goddamn
I don't care
testimonials.
if you somehow taste it. Somehow you're tasting it. You can't trust that either.
Yeah.
Because the very first casualty in war is always the truth.
Oh yeah.
Always.
Oh yeah.
Without exception. It
Although
always has been and it always will be.
they do have some good food though.
They do.
They
That's
do.
true.
Both sides, all sides.
But
Some really good food there.
my point is, don't trust anything you see, hear, read, or otherwise coming out of there. It's very likely or very possible that it is manipulated or just untrue in general, for various reasons, whether it's atrocity propaganda, whether it's just trying to get sympathy or trying to get hatred on the other group.
Hmm.
This is not new. This isn't. This is very simple tactic that's been used since the dawn of ever. right? You
Sure,
lie
sure.
about your enemy,
It's the way
and
it is. Yeah.
that's why I just don't, especially nowadays with what we can do with AI and stuff. Like
It's
you
going to get
can't be
worse.
certain.
Yeah,
You
it's going to
can't
get
be
worse.
certain of a damn thing.
It's
So
true.
just chill out.
Yeah, just
Just
relax.
chill
Yeah,
out.
that's true. But it is just funny that we see some because there's tens of thousands of people marching for Palestine around the
Yeah.
world, and of course that's going to blow up in your face, dumbasses. But whatever, we'll see. In a way, I kind of hope it does boil over, and I'll get to that in a second. But we see all these people at the same time. They're saying that Israel is lying, the Jews are lying, they didn't hurt any kids, all this kind of nonsense, even though Hamas showed us that they did. Um, they're all this stuff. At the same time, they're saying that the Islam is a religion of love, and the Quran has rules against this stuff. It's nonsense. Muslims never have ever in the history of ever done anything bad ever. That's they're saying these things. They're also marching down the streets saying, "Death to Israel, kill all Jews," as they
Yeah.
march down the fucking road. And all those
That's right.
dumbass white Karens are chanting right along with them.
Yeah, white women are problematic.
Whoa, dude. Whoa.
I've said this before. I've
Really?
said it on here, and I can find the data if I do a little search for it. I had it on my old computer. There might not be, and there probably isn't, a single ideology, religion, or otherwise that has been more destructive and deadly than Islam
Oh my
in
God.
total numbers.
Look how far they went. Keep in mind, all these Arabs that we see, the Persians got pulled into it too, but they're mainly, we got a lot of these Arabs, right? They're coming out of one little place called Saudi Arabia today. Arabia, the Arabian Peninsula.
Yeah.
Look how far they've gone. All the way and I mean as far as dominating and controlling the governments. All the way over to the western edge of Africa, down into the Sahara, beyond
Yep.
it, all the way over to frickin' China, all the way through India, who are able to release themselves from it eventually, all the way into Indonesia and the Philippines. Now, you want to talk
Yes.
about colonization? Damn, dude.
Correct.
Damn. And
And
and they did it the same way the whole time. That we have records. We have their records. They came up to a village and or a town and they said, "Join us or die." It's
right.
very direct. I kind of respect it more than the Catholics and their bullshit, right?
Yep.
But
Well, they
this,
did the bullshit too. If that didn't work, if they were repelled, they do the other way.
yeah,
They
no,
would they
that's
would do
fair.
the
That's
slow
fair.
way.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But I'm talking. You talk about colonization. You're talking about spreading. Egypt, used to be this cosmopolitan place, and it's still in a way. It kinda is. But I mean, those people aren't from Egypt. They're not Egyptian.
Oh, there's Egyptians
They're
there still. You can
Arabs. Yeah,
find them.
there's about 3,000 of them.
Yeah, they still exist, kind of.
Kinda.
But yeah, but no, they got bred out and literally genocided. That's
No,
what
that's how they
happened. That's
do. That's what they do. They
yeah.
come in and kill the men, they rape the women, and they make a new generation. That's
At
what
least
Muslims do.
I've seen different numbers on the Islamic expansion over the last, however long you want to give it, but they say 1,200 years over that time period. And the numbers I've seen, I'm very comfortable saying it's over a billion. They've slaughtered over a billion people, mostly other Muslims, to be honest,
Yeah, yeah,
in the name of Islam, in the name of
sure.
jihad, and really it's just in the name of empire. They can say what they want. That's what
Yeah. Well, the
they
Umayyads really kicked it off as far as that stuff goes.
yeah,
But I don't want to
yeah,
get into that deep history. But no, there's a friend of mine actually. It works at what university is he with now? One of the American ones. I can't remember. But anyway, his friend of mine I went to university with, and he's a he's a professor. And he many years ago he put together a it's not digital. It's like it is kind of digital, but it's basically a visual map that starts from the supposed beginning of Muhammad until
yep,
modern time, and it's just a map of the Middle East and Europe, that whole chunk,
hmm
Eurasia, and North Africa. And he basically went and from every documented battle and attack and anything he could find documented wise, not his opinion, it's documentation. He put a
yes,
dot on the map and it moves forward. So it's a moving map, right? It's growing. And you see these little dots popping up and showing up and spreading, right? It's one of those kind of digital video interactive map things. Go find that. because it's on YouTube. I know it is. I saw it, and it's shocking.
Yep.
It's shocking, and that is just what was documented. Just what
Right.
was documented, and it's shocking. It's like a frickin' plague. You ever seen those movies that have like the plague is going to kill us all, and they have those maps showing this, 24 hours, 7 days, 30 days, those kind of spreading maps that they show of the virus is going to kill us all. It's what it looks like.
Yes.
It's what it looks like. Yeah.
I think I want to say it was like 400 or 800 consecutive official attacks, whether it's wars or battles or just straight up attacks that the Muslim lords, kings, whatever they were called at the time, engaged in directly on mainland Europe before the Crusades ever kicked off.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Crusades happen
that was
for a
a
reason,
people.
dude. Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't just decide one day, you know what, fuck it, we're going to take it. No,
No.
it took a very long time for them to get to the point where they'd had enough.
And,
And
and
they
and you
went
can
out.
see that today, can't you? How much we
Yeah.
put up with. You can see how much we put up with before we act. And
Yes.
like I said, I'm going to get to something here in a minute, but keep in mind, even not only were they incredibly patient, centuries patient, before they finally acted. These so-called murderous, brutal crusaders, which you get this nonsense from the anti-colonizers all the time, right? Um,
Yeah.
even when they decided to finally move, where did they go? Did they go right into Jerusalem, right into the Holy Land and start murdering? They went to Odessa first. You know why? Because they went there to try to find a political solution.
Correct.
So even where they were pushed to get putting an army together to go in and try to deal with the problem, they went and tried to make a political solution first, and then of course it
Yep.
did get bloody, 7 times, right?
Yep.
9 times, really, if you
And
want to be
honestly,
technical
it
about it.
didn't even really stop. Like we said last week, the very first transatlantic war that America fought was against the Barbary States,
It
the
was,
Barbary Pirates.
it was, yeah.
That's just a fact of history. Like,
And then these
this has been a
idiots,
problem.
because of some fat childish bitch in Germany, let them all in.
Yep.
Centuries of fighting to keep the frickin' Islam out of Europe,
Yep.
and this bitch just waves her hand and says, "Come on in." Fucking,
Come on in. The water's fine. Well, they're going to pay for it, and they
they
are paying
are,
for it.
they are.
And it's a shame because it was completely unnecessary and totally avoidable. It was really stupid foreign policy from people in power, a lot of them in America, not all, that created this so-called crisis of this refugee crisis. But they've dropped that pretense now. Now they just bring people in just to bring them in. Like there's no crisis these people are trying to run from other than the fact that
No,
Africa sucks.
they
That's the
haven't,
only
because they're
crisis they're dealing
dumb
with.
and they think they have a
Yeah.
political solution, and they're wrong. But I really love Japan's take on it. Well, Asia in general, but I'll go with Japan because I'm here. When
Yep.
all that refugee stuff happened, the Europeans were trying to pressure the Japanese to take refugees, and the Japanese were like, "No, no, no, no Muslim,
No,
no Muslim, no, no, no,
no thanks.
no, no,
No
no Muslim."
thanks.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
therefore, we don't have that problem. Of course, the Japanese are extremely xenophobic, as are the Chinese, yeah, they're not playing those games.
Well,
Um,
two of the oldest groups in the world. China might be the oldest continuous group still going.
no, India
Um,
is, but
yeah,
anyway,
India,
they
yeah,
are
India.
they are long. You're right.
But
They are.
India's the same. India's the
It's the
same when it
same.
comes.
Oh,
They're not
they don't
fans.
like Muslims at all. They're still dealing with their Muslim problem.
Yeah.
Not only with Pakistan, but also within the country. Um,
Yep.
yeah, Indians don't care for that very much. But I mean, that aside, I mean, because once again, we know people are people, and there's plenty of good Muslims. We know this,
Yep.
obviously. But it's just it's a clear problem, and therefore I get to what I wanted to get to, and that's this: Iran is the only one that has any push right now, really. Saudi Arabia, of course, they're really one of the biggest problems, but money. But anyway,
Yeah.
Iran, they keep saying death to little Satan, Israel and Jews, basically. Death to the great Satan, America. Kill all Jews, kill all Christians, yada, yada, yada. I'm not assuming atheists are a given, right? But they
Oh yeah.
keep saying this over and over. They say they're the great power, they're undefeatable, and they can call on God, and God will do great things for them. Which, of course, that's another problem with God is show me one example of God doing anything for anybody. Just one,
No.
please. I'm not saying that there isn't God. What do I know? Nobody knows. But it certainly is leaves you to your own frickin' devices. I'll tell you that. Because of all this Allahu Akbar while we're killing little babies and raping women, Allah be praised for sure. He's not done nothing to help no Muslim, not once. But nevertheless,
That's for sure.
it's for sure. But Iran is going on about this big talk, beating their chest. They're always on and on about it. I'm like, well, all right then. Let's see who's tough. Maybe it's time. Let's just go over there and just kick it off. Let's go. We're Americans,
I'm
man.
good.
We'll happily get in a scrap with you. We
I'm
Americans
good.
love that shit. I mean, why don't we
I
just do that? Why don't we just go, fuck it? Let's go over to Iran and say, let's see then, big boy. You want to sit there and wrap your mouth around and go on about all your kill, murder, murder, death, murder, death, murder, death, Islam, fucking religion of peace. Why don't we go over there and see?
he's very fired up.
Well, you know what I
Um,
mean. I mean, fuck it. Let's
I
throw
do.
the gloves down. Let's
I do.
get to it.
I think we'd be further ahead. See, America is very, very, very good. We're not very good at invading places, to be honest, but we are very good at. Well, we're good at invading, and we're
Sucking
not good
money
at
out of
fucking
places is
leaving.
what we're good at. But anyway.
We're very, very, very good at subverting places. We have overthrown more governments than probably anyone ever, and we're very good at it. Quite good at it, in fact.
Yeah, no, but you know what? I understand that, but I'm not talking about that. Let's go do it. Let's just do this. Military, do your job, and no freaking politicians allowed to have an opinion. Shut your damn mouth. Let the military go
Well,
do
they're
their
not
damn
going to do
job.
that.
No, none of this political stuff. None about sucking money up and manipulation and all the stuff we do. No, let's just have a bang up. Let's have a big old bang up, and let's see. Let's see how many days you last, you fuckers. I mean, honestly, let's
And
put an end to it. Is what I'm saying. Maybe it's time.
well, the problem is a lot of people have tried to put an end to this and failed. And the reason they fail is because the people there don't want it to end. The only
No,
way you're
I'm
going to
not
actually
talking
end
about
it,
ending Islam. I'm talking about Iran.
that's what I'm talking about. People there don't want it to end. If they did, they'd end it. Just like people give far too much of a pass to people living in shitty places. The reason that place is shitty is because enough of you have decided that you don't care enough to change it.
Yeah, and actually,
Simple as that.
Iran is a beautiful place. It's
It
not.
is
It's not
gorgeous.
shitty at all. At all.
It's a great
Yeah, it's
place,
a wonderful place.
but they have a
But
very, very shitty government.
they're
Very
just
shitty
like
government.
many people have shitty governments. I understand that, but I'm just saying I would love to see my Hardy Boys go up against theirs. I'd love to. Let's just have a big old throwdown and see what happens because I have a feeling we would walk through them.
Well, we would if it was just them, but it wouldn't be just them.
Well, then bring
There's
who's going
too
to come in?
many.
Syria, what they got? Lebanon, what they got? Saudi Arabia ain't going to help. They're going to sit back and laugh.
They have too many close ties, and they're getting closer every day now. It seems with Russia, China,
Yeah,
and
dude,
India.
Putin would drag his feet like, "This is a bad thing. We shouldn't be. We're going to come help
Putin
you. We're
might,
going to come help you."
but Putin ain't going to be there forever. Putin's
It
getting
doesn't
old.
even matter. But Putin doesn't want none of it. He would just drag his feet and let the Americans obliterate him. That's what he'd do.
I don't know, man. I don't think they would with Iran. I think Iran would be a hard line. I think Russia would have to
No, I
gut
understand what you're
guys in.
saying, and it might be true. It might be true,
Yeah.
but maybe that's time too. I mean, maybe it's time
And
for that
then
too. To be honest, because the
China,
Russians.
here's the problem with China, is they have us by the balls. They might be on the verge of constantly collapsing, but we have a traitorous class at the top of this civilization who sent everything to China. They make everything, including our medicine, including a lot of other things that would take time for us to reappropriate. A lot of time, unfortunately. You can't just do it overnight.
It's true.
So if China got involved and was like, all right, well, we're just going to embargo you, we'd be suffering in a way that because they threatened to do it during COVID, if you remember, because we were talking, there's all this stuff going on, and they were threatening to shut off basically our supply of antibiotics because that's where we get them from, which is stupid.
It is.
We
stupid.
shouldn't get them from there, but we do.
But they set
And
up
they were
that
threatening to
system,
shut
right?
that off.
Because
Yeah.
money, cheap labor.
So that's the real problem is Russia to the north, obviously, there'll always be an issue because you can't invade Russia. It's just that's stupid. Don't even try that.
No.
So they're always going to be a problem as long as Russia exists as a country. And then China to the east isn't so much that China is going to win in a fucking war. They've never done it, so why would we assume they will this time?
Yeah, they're not good at
But
war. Yeah.
they can win in the long game because our betrayer politicians set
Or
everything
we
over
can
there.
just say all our debt to China is gone. Come at us, bro. But
Yeah.
anyway, we need to. I need to take a step back here, and because Grimlock needs to give Peace a chance to talk. Go ahead, Grimlock.
Yeah.
Nah, nah,
Fuck 'em.
nah, nah.
Well,
Get
I
you
here's
got to
what
do it
I
in the Michael Jackson voice. Give peace a
here's what I think
chance.
happens if
We
we
are the
try to kick up
people.
if we try to kick up that much dust. I don't think the American people will stand for it. I think you'd have an actual revolution.
Yeah, maybe. I'm just.
My
I'm just
generation has never
being
been out of
hyperbolic,
war.
you know.
Yeah, my generation has been in war our entire adult lives. We've sacrificed enough of our blood and treasure in that damn desert. Israel can take care of itself. They have
Oh
nukes.
yeah,
They
that's
finally
true.
admitted it.
That is
So
true.
just let them take
It
care of
has
themselves.
plenty
I'm
of
not
our
saying we
money.
shouldn't support them, in other ways, but we don't need to be fighting these wars to
No, we
protect that
don't. You're
tiny
right.
little nation.
The Iranian government pisses me off,
It does.
right?
Well, they
Because
almost got overthrown last year, if you remember. They were on the brink. I don't know what happened, how
it
they
would be nice.
consolidated power
Because
again.
I've known a lot of Iranians in my life, and they're really nice people, actually.
They are.
Because they're Persian Muslims. The actual Iranians are not the crazy Arabs. They're not.
Correct.
And
They're Persians.
it's a beautiful place, and they really need to get rid of that government. But there's many places who say that. CCP needs to go. The
Yep.
American deep state needs to go. Whatever Britain needs to fucking go.
The crown
Canada
needs to
needs
get
to be
back its authority.
frickin' have their mouth washed out with soap. We got to deal with the frickin' Canadians. I don't know why we just don't invade it and make it part of America. I mean, honestly. I mean,
Listen, if you
why?
want to
Who
start a
needs a
war, that's a
Canada?
war. That's a war we should start. I
Yeah.
agree. If we're gonna start wars, let's leave them in this hemisphere.
And we put a
and
wall around
just put-
frickin' Quebec, just a wall, and then
Well,
forget
I
that
mean,
we built it.
listen. I'm against genocides, but killing frogs isn't a genocide.
It's fair.
So.
It is fair. Just to build a wall. But I'm just, you know,
Fucking
of
Quebec.
course I'm being hyperbolic. You guys know I am. But
Yeah. No, I agree with you though. It is annoying because if we had a sensible system that wasn't completely and utterly corrupt, the wars in the Middle East would have made more sense because we would have been over there for an actual, tangible, effective goal that could have made everybody's life better.
oh yeah,
But
no,
we didn't
can't do
do
that. No, we can't do
No,
that.
can't
No,
do that. We
that's
can't have like they call it.
unacceptable.
It's American imperialism. Where's the empire?
Yeah,
What do
where's
you
the
mean
empire?
imperialism?
Yeah, no, they
Where's
just steal
the
money.
ships full of gold
No,
coming back like the Spanish Empire? You know what I mean? Like what are we talking about?
We're
If this was an empire, we'd be better off.
Yeah.
We'd be better off. The citizens here would be better off if it was an empire, a genuine empire. But we're
Yeah,
not. We're worse
you know,
off than
like
we were 20 years ago.
for instance, you've had many empires go into Afghanistan, which is just the mountains with some cave people living in it.
Yep.
And but the resources are high. And if you're serious about it, well, what you do is you go to Afghanistan and you take all the people and you push them into Pakistan. I mean, that's what you do.
Yes.
I mean, if you really
Push
want
right out.
to, control it, just take every, I don't care, every woman, child, and just march them right into Pakistan. I
Yep.
mean, honestly, if that's what you want, right? Honestly, I'd say just leave it alone and try to help them to be able to sell their resources. Maybe that would help. Money possibly would make the place better. But whatever. No one gives a shit about Afghanistan. Another thing I've noticed, Grimlock, is when we were in Afghanistan, and of course Iraq before, those people are actually poor. I mean, seriously, mud house poor, right?
Yes.
Have you guys noticed the video? One thing I've been doing because I'm busy doing other stuff. So there's these online live feeds from Gaza. They're just cameras,
Mhm.
and I just leave it on, and I just kind of listen and see it as I'm doing other stuff. And this has given me a lot of more. It's much more insight than the talking heads on TV, by the way, because you're seeing live what's happening, right? There's also a rooster who's now world famous. Good for him. But
Yep.
other than that, one of the things I've noticed is these cameras are it's just a bunch of cameras in Gaza, just live feed, right? not they're all over the world. You can find these. They're free on the internet. And but the thing is, I'm noticing is there's brand new Toyota cars everywhere. There's shops and stores and banks and jewelry stores and all this beautiful stuff. These bombs are hitting these buildings and they're well built, dude. They're still standing. I mean, it's like in China, you blow on the damn thing, it falls over, right?
Well,
I
yeah.
mean, it's so poorly built over in China, it's ridiculous. But and people keep telling me that, oh, they're so oppressed, the apartheid, they're poor, poor, poor people, and I'm like, really? I'm looking at it. You're telling me my eyes are lying? They seem to be quite wealthy. I see a bunch of
Yeah.
fat people running around. How are you oppressed in a concentration camp and fat? Excuse me? I mean, have you guys seen these feeds? I mean, it's not a poor place at all.
Mm-mm.
I mean, they got like I said, there's the brand new cars everywhere, Toyotas everywhere. There's all these kind of shops and very modern looking. It isn't Mustafa's kebab. No, it's freaking like Middle Eastern chain stuff. It's all over
Yes.
the place. And I'm like, you're telling me that this is supposed to be some kind of ultra super poor country? I just saw a poor country get obliterated. And of course, it doesn't mean nothing to them because it's all mud houses anyway. They just go up in the cave for a fucking month. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
that's why you can't beat the Afghanis because they got nothing.
They had nothing to
What do
lose.
you got? They
Period.
got nothing, dude. And okay, you knocked over my mud house. Let me get some more mud. I mean, they have nothing. But these
They literally, God literally provides housing for them.
He does. But I mean, Palestine, and it's like, and the reason for it is because you get all these international communities and governments pouring billions of dollars a year into there. And it's like, oh, I wonder how your money got spent. Some of it's obviously going into the infrastructure and the people, obviously. But it's also paying for these kind of attacks. Because what does Hamas do since they came in? They build up, attack, build up, attack over and over and over and over again. And this time it was worse because they actually got through the fence and were able to murder as many as they could, right? And kidnap people. And
Well, let's real quick, because there is the tinfoil question as well.
oh, there are many.
So
Yeah.
apparently, Mr. Netanyahu,
Yeah.
Israel itself, from what I've heard, obviously I'm not there, but it was on a very unrest. There was a lot of unrest in
Oh,
Israel
I've been watching it for about a year.
for all the crap
About a year.
Netanyahu's been doing.
Well, you got to keep in mind, Netanyahu not only is just to lose his position, but there's actually charges of corruption. So it could be
Yes.
possible jail time with Netanyahu. But you're right. For the past year or so, the Israelis have been at each other's throats in political arguments, and this could explain why they weren't focused enough and this got through. It could be an explanation. Um, but you're right. Netanyahu is under extreme stress, and the political shenanigans. And if you go watch because I'll actually watch the Israeli news, I'll
Hmm.
actually watch it. And even though they have unified for this threat, which is good, they're still bitching, dude.
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
over
it,
dumbass
it-
shit too. You know it is, right?
yeah. Well,
But
my
yes, you're
point
right.
is, there was. I'm seeing reports, of course. Like I said, trust absolutely nothing you hear or see out of this
Of
region right
course
now,
not. Yeah.
especially. But the stuff I'm seeing, if it is true, there are reports saying that it took them over 7 hours or around 7 hours to mobilize the IDF in
5.
response.
It's 5, but yeah, it's the same. Same
Regardless,
effect. Yeah, 5, too long.
that's terrible.
Yeah.
That's obscene. And there's a lot of people questioning if whether or not Netanyahu, we know they got, well, we don't know, but we've been told that other people, I think it was Egypt, informed them that something was coming and they didn't really do anything about it.
Yeah,
So there's
that
people who are
seems to be.
questioning whether
Yeah.
or not Netanyahu let it happen to try and stifle
Yeah,
the
red flagged it. Yeah.
resistance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like Pearl Harbor was. It's definitely
yeah.
possible. We talked about it last week. It's definitely possible. I don't know. But and the Americans saying, and see how quickly the Americans threw their hands up and said, "Yep, well, we failed. Our CIA failed. We didn't see it coming. We failed." They never say that unless there's a better reason to not say it, right? Or to say
Exactly.
it, right?
What? So
So
what's worse than failure? Allowing it to happen. That would be
yeah,
the
yeah,
worst.
yeah.
Yeah, like they
So
let it happen.
it's possible. Now, this certainly wouldn't be some widespread thing throughout the entire Israeli government. Definitely not. Definitely not.
No.
But could Netanyahu and his government and the Biden administration could they have just let something happen? It's possible. It's certainly possible. It's also could be that they're just bitching at each other so much that they weren't paying attention, and the military's pissed too, so they just weren't paying attention. And the American government is such a freaking debacle with these morons in charge. It's not like it's
Yeah.
it's not the first time the CIA's fucked up. By the way, if you hadn't been paying attention, the CIA's count's kind of low, right? So it's
It's
just as
running on
much could
fumes.
well, yeah, but I'm just saying just as much is not a red flag. It could easily just
Well, it
be
could just be a.
no one caught it.
It could just be incompetence.
Could be.
That is
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
But it's very convenient incompetence
It is.
because they're
It is.
bitching at each other, but they've all unified. That they have to deal with this problem
Right.
once and for all.
Of
Quote unquote.
course. Yeah, yeah. So this does help Netanyahu a lot. You're right. It
Yeah.
could help Biden because we Americans don't like to change presidents during war. So it could be a big help to Biden. To be fair, he only can get about 20 seconds of proper speech out. But those first 20 seconds after the drug shot aren't bad.
Yeah.
Then
No,
he
Biden
goes
used
down
to
and he
actually
lets
be.
Jill talk. Why the fuck is Jill always talking? Someone
Oh
tell me.
God,
Why am I
who knows?
always having to listen to Democratic first ladies? What the hell is Jill talking for? But whatever.
The
Anyway,
sad thing is Biden used to be a decent speaker. He was actually,
wow, he's
quite
Alzheimer
effective.
grandpa now. What do you want?
But yeah, he's 80 years old. What are we doing? Why is he the most powerful man in the world? What is happening?
Yeah.
It's preposterous. And then of course the Republicans, because they're simps and they can't help themselves, they say, hey, you know what? Let's go with another guy who's 80. What? How about we don't? Can we try somebody? Just try somebody a little
Pushing
younger,
for
just a
the
little younger.
DeSantis, are you? All right. I
No,
saw
I'm
his
not pushing
speech in
for
Iowa. Did you
anybody.
see his speech in Iowa?
I did not. I'm not
Yeah.
pushing for anybody specifically. I'm just saying maybe the octogenarians can stay home. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe they should just stay home.
I've seen DeSantis speak a few times, and I watched his speech in Iowa. I can't say I disagree with hardly anything he says. People say
The
that, well,
problem,
there's things he just says that I don't like. I'm like, well, okay, I haven't heard it yet. And
I like DeSantis as an actual governor, a person, the person who
yeah,
does the
which is
job.
what we
Executive.
need as a president.
Yes. The problem with DeSantis is he's boring. He's not
Yeah,
exciting. He does and that I know people like to pretend and I like to live in make believe land that what matters is policy and your ideas and how smart you are and all none of that shit matters. Here's what matters. Are you good looking? Like are you pleasing to the eye to look at? You're not like grotesque in some
which
way.
he is.
Are you Yeah, he's a good looking dude. Are you tall? Because if your opponent's taller, he's probably beating you. Historically speaking, the tall one wins.
Sure.
That's
And of
what
course, he
happens.
could just lean a little closer to his wife, and that solves that issue.
Yeah.
Damn.
And so okay, his wife's a looker. My point is elections are not decided based on principle. They're decided based on appearance.
Right.
I know people don't like to hear it, but it's true. The one who looks
Oh,
the best or who has the most,
since
you
Nixon,
know,
JFK, dude.
yeah, who has the most what's the word I'm looking? Not charisma, the most I'll use a modern term,
Aesthetic.
drip. Yeah, aesthetic. The most drip, as the youngins would say, which Trump no one can deny in 2016 that Trump didn't have all that. He had all
Yeah,
of that. He was
that's
a
true.
powerhouse.
But
Um,
you also have another aspect with DeSantis. I get what you're saying. You're right, but you have another aspect with DeSantis. He's actually
yeah,
pretty good at his job.
he is. He's actually a decent governor. You don't
Yeah,
have to agree with his necessarily his policies. You might think some of them are stupid, and that's fine. But when it comes to the job of being an
yeah,
executive
he's
at
pretty
the state
solid.
level, I have very little complaints. At least he does his job. He tries to do his job.
Yeah,
Whether or not his actual attempts are, misguided or intelligent, well, that's a debate. But I would much rather have somebody who at least goes in there with the intent of doing something,
who
right?
you
They're
going to
gonna
vote
do
for,
their job.
Grimlock?
Who am I gonna
Ronald
vote
or
for?
Mickey? Who are we going for this year?
Ronald or Mickey.
Guess I'm Ronald because at least I can get the quarter pounder with cheese.
And fair.
That is a good
Fair.
time. That
Fair.
is a
Burger
good
King
time.
screwed up. The reason why they're not as big as McDonald's because they don't have that the captain or lieutenant whatever fucking burger face is not frickin' Donald
Which
or Ronald. Sorry, same thing.
Ronald McDonald
Yeah,
is what you're looking
Mr.
for.
McDonald, the clown.
The other problem with Burger King is its ass. So there's
Now
that.
it's way better than
They have,
McDonald's, dude. I mean, come on.
no, not anymore, bro. You don't even know what's
Well,
happened
I'm
to
in
Burger King.
Japan, so I get
It-
actual properly created food over here. Sorry.
Over here, if you would like diarrhea, Burger King's where you want to go.
Oh,
or
that
if you just like
sucks, dude.
puke, go ahead and eat Burger King.
Well, that
because
sucks.
they used to have pretty decent, obviously burgers, but they also used to have pretty decent chicken sandwiches. Their ass. I've been there a few times in the last like 5 or 6 years, and they're just disgusting. It's
Well,
not
if I'm
even. It's
if I'm in America and I want a burger, where do I go then? What's my
well,
choice?
what kind of price point we looking at?
I
'Cause
don't
we
give
got
a shit the
options.
price. I just talking chain.
Chain. Well, okay. Fast food or sit down food.
Fast food. We're in the fast food category. So.
In my opinion, you can't beat the double quarter pounder with cheese. You just can't. They in the last 5 years or so, McDonald's has made it a policy that they make those fresh when you order them now. They're
Mhm.
not just sitting there all day. Well, they're not supposed to be sitting there all day and old meat and whatever. So usually you get a pretty good time with the double quarter pounder with cheese, especially at the price point. The other one would be Wendy's, in my opinion. If you're going to go with the big chains, Wendy's is a baconator. I mean, it's bacon slapped on some burger, a little bit of mayo. Yes,
Okay,
it's pretty
well,
good time.
Roger's agreeing with you, and I'm just going to
Yeah.
say you guys are frickin' Philistines. All right?
Why is that?
No, but and it ties in because keep in mind the modern terminology for a Philistine is a Palestinian. And what is the cultural ideas we have about Philistines? Moronic, uneducated heathens, right?
Yeah,
That's the idea
that's
we have
right.
of the Philistines. Are we seeing anything different with the Palestinians?
Well,
Is it
let's
changed?
not.
Is it better?
Let's not.
Was that too much? Too soon?
Let's see. What other place has good burgers?
I keep hearing about these Five Guys and Burger Shack or Shake
Yeah,
Shack or whatever.
Five Guys is overrated. I'm not a big fan of Five Guys. I've been there a couple times. They don't impress me, honestly. And maybe it's just my own personal bias, but that double quarter pounder with cheese is hard to beat when it's made competently. That thing's delicious and it's not
Mm,
expensive.
I really
And
like
it's
me a
food.
sourdough jack though.
Yeah.
Sourdough jack was pretty good. Crystal's burgers were good.
If you want more high end quote unquote burgers, like a sit down place, Red Robin's pretty good too. They got a
I don't know
good
that
time.
one. I do know that
Yeah.
if you want a breakfast sausage McMuffin thingy, Hardee's, man.
I'm gonna tell you right
Yeah.
now. I'm gonna tell you right now. When it comes
About
to
to cut off
breakfast
promo.
food,
Mm.
I am. I did it last night too. When it comes to breakfast food, as far as fast food, there is nothing that I have ever tasted all over the world, Chester. I've been everywhere. Nothing I've ever tasted that comes close to a McDonald's steak, egg, and cheese bagel. That thing is a masterpiece of
I've never
flavor.
had one of those. Never seen it.
Oh, it's so good.
But my
It might be
McDonald's
the
here is
best
very
thing.
primitive, really.
Oh, it might. Well, they didn't have them for a little while. They're in COVID for some reason. They ran out of bagels. I don't know. That's
How?
what they said. They said they couldn't get
Did
bagels. I was
COVID
like,
kill all the Jews?
how can you not get bagels? I mean, I can go to the store right now and buy you some bagels. What are you talking about? But yeah, they didn't have them for a few years, at least not around here. And then they brought them back, and I said, "Oh shit! Oh hell! Here it is.
I'll have to
That
try one
steak,
if I
egg, and
ever get
cheese
near it.
bagel.
But
Oh,
no, the
so
Jews,
good.
and the Muslims too, the Arabs as well, Persians, they do make some good grind, dude. Oh,
Yeah.
some really good food. Like a
You know
lot of
what they
time.
make really good
Mm,
is bread. They make
oh yeah,
damn good
yeah,
bread.
killer. But a lot of people I know in America tend to eat the Southern style potato salad, right? Which is
Yeah.
good. I like it. It's French. It's French potato salad, and it's good. But that vinegar, potato soaked vinegar, New England deli Jew potato salad is so
Yeah.
killer, dude.
I
It
like
is
so
good.
vinegar
They
and
can have,
oil
they can have
fries.
either one, either form of that bullshit. They can have it.
You don't like it, yeah. But I think
Yeah.
they're
Like
both good.
if you go to like farmers markets or festivals, fall festivals or whatever, they'll have the oil and vinegar fries. Oof, those are good as shit. They
Yeah.
make some fries, nice fresh cut fries. Put that oil, vinegar, a little salt. Good time.
Well, I come from the land of pizza.
Yep.
And there's a lot of good pizzas, but it's sad how these chains have fallen so far. But as far of course, I'd rarely eat a chain pizza unless I was outside of New England, because I mean, mom and pop pizzerias are awesome. But one of the best pizza chains I ever had was actually Godfather's.
Yep.
And isn't
Godfathers are
that
still
black
around.
brain surgeons? Doesn't he own that?
I don't. Is he a brain surgeon? I know it's a black guy.
It's
I
the
don't know if he's a brain
politician
surgeon.
guy, right? He's a
Is it?
brain surgeon, and people, of course, he's not black enough, I guess.
Ben Carlson.
No, what's his name, dude? He was tried to run president a couple of times. He's very soft spoken.
Herman Cain.
Yeah, Kane.
No. Oh, he's dead. He died.
When did he
Uh,
die?
he died from
2
COVID.
years ago.
Actually.
Oh, he
Yeah.
died from COVID. Oh, perfect.
COVID got him. Well, allegedly COVID got him. I don't know. I wasn't there, but that's what they tell me. COVID got
Stop
him.
talking about ambrosia. You might make me hungry. Sorry, Roger. Yeah, I haven't. Did I eat today? I don't know. Maybe.
One of the things crazy about where I live is it's because of its location, because it's very central between multiple large cities.
Yeah.
We have everything. You can, if you want to eat something, you can find it here. I've never had an urge for a type of food and not been like, I want Mediterranean food, got it. Multiple restaurants. You want East Asian, whatever kind, Korean,
Nice.
Japanese, Chinese, they got it. Pie, it's out there. To the point where there was an old 50s style diner that was still operating around here, barely. They were barely hanging on, and they sold to this Indian couple, and they turned it into an Indian restaurant. And it is, I don't really like Indian food, but my wife does, and she loves it. She absolutely loves it.
Well, when it comes, you're talking about you're not talking about Indian food. You're probably talking about naan and curry, right? Or masala garam.
Well, right, yeah,
right?
what they call Indian food. Yeah.
Right. Well, here's the thing. When you guys are looking around for that, look for a Nepalese run curry house.
Yep. Got
Look,
one of them.
the Nepalese are way better at masala garam and naan than the Indians are. Way better.
Yep.
I don't know why,
We have
but they are.
we have a place. What's it called? We were just there like a few months ago too. But basically, the people are from Beirut, and they mix
Lebanon's
Beirut
awesome.
food, yeah, Lebanese food with American and Italian food for some reason. Why? But yeah, it's phenomenal.
Oh,
Really
Lebanese
good
food is awesome. It's one of the places on my list I want to go to. I will end up in the Mediterranean sooner than later. And the funny thing is, Lebanon is having a lot of hard times, and hopefully they'll get it fixed. But unless you're a Jew, pretty much anybody can go to Lebanon.
Yeah, they don't mind.
Just don't be a Jew, though.
Yeah, don't
do that.
Leave the little hat at home.
Yeah.
Leave the little hat at home. Yeah.
Yeah, leave the little hat at home. But everybody else, Christian, non-Christian, Lebanon's fine. It's not a problem for you. Like I said, they're having some serious economic issues right now. I mean, ridiculously bad ones. They don't even have power all day long, dude. It's that bad.
Yeah, it's
right.
That sucks.
It sucks real bad, dude. But hopefully they'll recover, because Lebanon is one of the best food locations on earth, dude.
Yep. It's a shame. It's a shame what's happened to that area.
Yep.
I'm trying to think. I've been over here trying to think of another one of these chains, because Burger King fell way off. It really did in America. It's bad here.
That's too bad.
At least around here it is. I don't think there's a good one around here at all.
Not one around here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame.
Food, it's always a good conversation. With these places in the Middle East, and all they have to do is stop screaming death to Jews, death to Christians, death to Israel. Just stop it. Just stop.
Yeah,
And
just
stop
and ask a simple question.
Knock it off. Yeah, and don't give these greedy Western governments opportunity to fuck with you. I mean, honestly,
Instead of arguing over religion, you just
just chill, dude.
sit a Palestinian and a Jew down and just ask the simple question: Hey, where's your favorite place to be a fat ass?
Right?
What
Because
do you
there are
like to eat?
plenty of fat asses in both
And
places.
everybody has one.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, it just stop. I mean, Lebanon, Syria, Iran, and many of the other places. Just stop with this whole death to the Jews, death to the Christians. Just stop it. Knock it off. I mean, just be copacetic, man. And because what you're doing is the world is their knee jerk reaction is against you because of the words you speak, right? And you're giving these Western governments, like the American government, the opportunity to come in there and fuck with you, dude. Don't create opportunities for them to mess with you, right? Just be
Yep.
copacetic, be at peace, man. I mean, it's
Remember what I said, Chester. My moral philosophy on life. If I can't kick your ass, you're my friend. And
okay, fine.
that's what a lot of these people have to learn.
So I'm not your
It's
friend.
sometimes correct. It's
Oh, fine.
sometimes um sometimes you have to be willing to accept your place in the pecking. And
Oh, that's
that
true.
can mean you have to swallow your pride a bit. But it's also some of my best friends. That was why I befriended them, because I knew I wanted them on my side. If
Right.
something ever happened
Well,
and I needed an ally, I want this dude who can fight. I don't want some pussy over
right.
here.
Well, to be fair, the level of narcissism and I am the main player in the game
Yep.
syndrome is wickedly widespread, dude. It's
And
so I see so many morons acting like they're king shit. And it's like, dude,
yeah, it's
it's
a
like
symptom.
it is, dude. And like I made this comment a couple of times and people, argue it. But here's the thing. I I'll say it again. This whole thing with Antifa, Black Lives Matter, and then of course the retort of all lives matter. No, they don't. The average
Right.
life does not. Very few lives actually matter. Very few lives
Correct.
are people who are creative or innovative or bringing something that actually helps humanity. Very few lives matter outside of your family friend group. That's
That's
the
right.
reality,
Your
and
tribe.
we need to think this way, because otherwise, this narcissism runs rampant, and it's one of the first
Yep.
things we said today. In the past, it was a bit different because you didn't have these little people and groups and tribes here thinking they were better than everyone around them. It was far different, and they were more
Yep.
peaceful and happy because of it.
Yep. And it's because I know a lot of people in the West don't want to hear this, but it's the truth. It's because we've allowed individualism to run rampant. Everything must be moderated, including that.
Yeah,
If you do not, people get what we have today, where they think they're the main character, the main
that's
character
right.
syndrome.
Make him
And
understand.
now there's
Well, we
people who
can't all be
genuinely think
Grimlock.
that's true.
You know,
Now,
There's
you're
people who
gonna
genuinely think that if they were in an altercation, whatever it is, for whatever reason, might not have anything, you
oh,
might
the
not even have
cougar
started it.
argument. That one's hilarious. Yeah, I get you.
You're just in some kind of fight now. Now you're in trouble that they can take on multiple people at once, no problem. Like, bro, you're
No.
getting your ass kicked. You're
Yeah.
getting your ass kicked.
And
Unless you can get
take it
away.
from a dude that had to do it many times.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
you don't want it.
It's not like Hollywood, bro. It
No.
isn't. And so the idea of I can handle anything, no, you can't. And the only people who think they can handle anything are people who haven't been handled anything yet.
Yeah, they're
Because
just
eventually
pure
life's gonna hit
narcissism.
you and it's
Unearned
gonna knock you on
arrogance.
your ass.
Yeah.
Yes.
But we see a lot of it is so widespread, it's ridiculous. And that's why you get a bunch of these dumbass, progressives, Karens marching with frickin' Palestinians screaming death to all Jews. I mean, are you really serious? I mean, all of these frickin' white Karens marching along, standing in line, like down in Sydney was a perfect example because that was in English at least.
Yep.
They're literally chanting all these stupid white Karens with these other frickin' murderous Palestinians, gas the Jews, literally chanting it. It's like, where have you gone wrong in your life? Genocide is
Pretty simple.
bad.
Yeah, genocide is simply not a good thing.
No. Yeah.
That shouldn't be a controversial position, but apparently in 2023, the year of our Lord, the year of the Lord Jesus, that is now controversial. to
It
say that
is. It,
maybe don't kill everybody.
no,
I don't
maybe
know.
not.
Just try it.
And I understand
Try
the
it.
Jews can be annoying. I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of this whole ESG stuff is coming from Jews. I mean,
Yeah.
the progressive stuff, Jews now they're secular. They're not actual Orthodox Jews. They're
Communism,
not at all. They're
Jews,
socialist. And I
communists.
get it. I get that Jews can be annoying, but kill all of them? Really?
Like
Or
even
kill
the
any of
accountants,
them?
Nah, we got to
even
keep
just
a
the
few
accountants.
around. Somebody's got to
Listen,
make bagels.
Maybe Mark Ruffalo.
Somebody's got to make the bagels. He's got a point. We got to
It's
keep
true.
some for
We
the
need the bagels.
We can't. It was the best thing they ever gave us was the bagels. We got to keep
That's
those
true.
around.
That's true. They keep the leeks and the locks.
Yeah. Nobody
But I'll
wants
take the
leeks.
bagels. The
Let's
matzo
keep
ball,
the
the Italians are better.
Eh,
The Italians are better.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
better. Meatballs
Which
better.
is true for most food. The
That's
Italians
true.
are better
That's
at
true.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, what a ridiculous concept. I mean, come on, dude. You're literally marching down the street talking about Islam is the religion of peace. The Jews are lying. The Islam doesn't allow for horrible, evil things ever in the history of ever. Waltzed you chant, kill all Jews. I mean, can you? Where is the brain here?
Well,
But no, it's so outside, dude. You're sitting saying all these things, and then the very next second, you're literally chanting, kill all something. You're literally chanting genocide. And I'm like, how do you juxtapose your thoughts here?
it's very strange. It's
You really can't. But to be fair, I did see a rally in New York where the Jews are saying the same thing about them. So
Oh, of course they do. I'm not forgiving them, but I'm just making
no.
because
I know.
that's like 6 Jews at their local deli, right? I'm talking about the tens of thousands of people marching in these Palestinian things, literally going down the road saying, "Kill all Jews, kill all Jews." Now, like I said, usually it's in their language, and I understand the average Westerner doesn't understand what they're saying, and I can't speak Arabic fluently either, but I know a lot of words, and I certainly know them words.
What it's sad is what it is because we live in this world now where you have instant communication like we're doing right now all across the world. We're thousands of miles apart, all of us right now.
Yeah.
When we're talking. And yet, for some reason, the human race, the species, is still nothing but a bunch of scared little chimps screaming at the other people how much they hate them.
Oh, yeah.
And
we're basically scared in the dark, throwing our shit against the wall. That's right.
this is probably one of the reasons why I've become so anti most people. What's the word? Misanthropic? That's the word. Because I grew up watching things like Star Trek. And I want the Star Trek
Yeah,
future.
Gene had a vision,
Then I
didn't
look
he?
around. I look around and I'm like, we don't deserve the Star Trek future. Look at this. Look at us right here. What are we doing? We don't deserve it. None of us do. We just don't. We don't deserve to live in utopia on Earth like they do.
We barely deserve pizza.
Yeah, a pizza is a stretch for most of them. I'll tell you
Pizza
right
is
now.
a God-given right, Grimlock. How
It should
dare
be,
you even?
because it is good.
It
It
is.
is good. We shouldn't, however, allow people who live in the southern hemisphere to do things to pizza because they're doing ungodly things that I can't tolerate.
Yeah, well,
I can't. I won't. In fact,
there's not many
I
of
won't.
them. It's just ignore them, really. Yeah.
Just enough to nuke.
Mm.
I see one more picture of a fucking pizza with pickles on it.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know.
Oh,
It's a problem.
That's weird.
It's a problem.
Well, at least the Australians stood up against that voice vote, though. Like overwhelming. There weren't any, and not a single county passed for it. That's a good thing because that was dumb. You're literally going to change your constitution to put a racial clause in it. This race is better than the others, therefore they get more authority. What?
Yeah.
Sure. That's not going to cause any trouble. At least they had the wherewithal. At least the people stood up and say, "Yeah, fuck off."
We have to, as a species, and especially as the old white race, the whole white man, we got to stop with this suicidal guilt that so many people have to where they would literally you know who was pushing that? It was mostly white women. Um, this self hatred for being the ancestors of the people who won is weird.
It is
Nobody
weird.
else, nobody else has this. No other group. The Han Chinese aren't over here all feeling guilty because they wiped out all the other Chinese. They don't give a shit. They won. They're
No.
like, yeah, we won. Fuck them.
Yeah.
How about
Well,
that?
we are
The
No,
conquerors.
Japanese,
it's
We're the
no,
ancestors of
but
conquerors, and fuck the
but
Indians.
like you said, no,
yeah,
it's their perverted narcissism. That's all that
It
it
is
is.
perverted.
yeah,
Yeah.
Because because all it is like because every other look, white people have done anything historically that any other tribe group, whatever the fuck you want to call them, they haven't done anything nobody else.
No.
And every other group, like you said, it's only and it started with white women. As I said, we can cure at least 70% of this country's problems if you just shut up the white women. And
Yeah.
I'm holding you guys responsible for that because they're your women.
that's true.
You
Fine.
get them little,
Yeah.
Fine.
you get
But
them little
I
cottage cheese eating bean poles in fucking order.
I gave up. I married an Asian.
All right.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, we conquered your tribe and kicked your ass and took your shit, but I feel bad about it. Bitch, shut up.
Yeah.
You
No.
you feel
I'm
bad.
sorry.
Meanwhile, you haven't taken. You
And
feel bad, but you ain't take the diamond ring off yet. Shut up, bitch.
well, you know, the
Mhm.
the
Shut
thing
up.
that's kind of interesting about that is because most of the white success, I mean, you can go back ancient times, but I mean, most of the white success has been more in the modern age, and the modern
Yes.
age
Yep.
has certain sensibilities and certain rules which other ages
It,
didn't have,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So
it's
we've
it's
actually,
recency bias, is what it is.
well, I'm just saying there's certainly been atrocities done in the name of a white man, but they're far less than
Yeah,
previous ages. And it's not because
yeah,
we're better, it's just simply the age we came up in. That's all.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
That's what I'm saying. Recency bias.
yeah, it is.
It's hard. It's weird to say that something that happened 300 years ago is recency bias, but
But it is.
you know,
It is. It's
it,
recent
it
time.
no nobody's talking about the shit that happened from the other civilizations because oh, that happened 2,000 years ago. Why you living in the past, nigga? I'm about to ask you the same question.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean,
Why you living in that?
right, what are you doing? And the thing is with the British, they caused havoc all over the world and they did a lot of oppression, sure, but
As
they
they do.
also
Yeah.
brought modern world to everybody.
Correct.
Modern education,
And a
modern
lot of
technology, modern thought, modern democracy, modern law, and no one gives them credit for that.
Correct.
and a lot of times it was done in the name of a white woman, but shh, don't tell them.
Yeah.
No,
Don't
it's
tell them.
all, well, that's the thing, Grimlock. Everything is done in the name of a woman.
That's
Because
true.
Everything.
I guarantee it takes a woman's logic. If we leave Scandinavia, it's too fucking cold. Come halfway across the world to move to the one place in this whole fucking country that's just as cold. That had to be women.
That's true. That is
No
true.
fucking
not a
man would have
fight.
done
I'll
that.
be back in a minute, guys. You guys continue.
No fucking man in the world would have done that.
That's a good point. Yeah. Though I mean, the Vikings, they came over here at first, and they just like, nah. It's what are we doing? It's the same. It's cold as shit there too. Fuck it. Let's just go home. Basically what they said.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's stupid. The amount of people who feel guilty for crimes they didn't commit, done by ancestors, many of them didn't even have, is just ridiculous. You should not feel guilty because your ancestors built for you a civilization that benefits you. That's what?
Most people,
Why would you feel
most
bad
people are
about
full of
that?
but most people are full of shit. Come on, like if you're walking down the street and you find $5, do you feel bad for the guy who lost the $5? You're like, nope, got me it.
Oh,
Just picked up a
$5.
soda.
Nice.
$5.
Yeah, exactly.
It,
It's the cognitive dissonance, right? They live in a world that is built today, right now, on the back of basically slave labor, and in some cases, literally slave labor. And then they have the audacity, the unbelievable gall to sit there and besmirch the ancestors of Americans because of slaves. It's
yeah,
outrageous behavior, and the only reason they can do it is because those people cannot defend themselves. They're not here to defend themselves. I actually think it's ultra egregious for various reasons because those people aren't here to defend themselves. It's why I don't like moralizing history as much as possible. It's not fair. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to you. It's completely unjust to put these moral fabrics or whatever you want to call it onto history and onto people who lived at different times because you have knowledge they simply did not have, and you have the ability. Hindsight is 20/20, right?
Hmm.
So I don't like doing it personally. But
Yeah, but hell, it ain't even just that. It's okay, you're doing that, and as you guys pointed out earlier, history has been propagandized for fucking ever. And a lot of times, when people actually find out the truth about history, it it ain't pretty. You know, it's one of those things where fucking people had to be honest about the history of any given time. There's rarely a good guy. It's more gray than anything. I mean, there's rarely a time in history, especially whenever it comes down to wars, where there's truly a black and white. Oh, this guy was clearly good. These
well,
guys
it's
were
Hollywood
clearly
brain.
bad.
It's Hollywood brain.
Yeah.
People have been raised in this hyper propaganda environment that tells them that there's good guys and bad guys, and in most circumstances, that's just not true. There's
Yeah.
some that are good, some that are more bad. I do believe that some people are just straight bad for various reasons, and there's very little you can do to fix that, and you shouldn't even try. However, most of the time when you're dealing with a conflict, that's not what you're dealing with. You're dealing with two people with two different perspectives. Maybe one is more wrong than the other, and that's fine. That doesn't necessarily make them the
Yeah.
bad guy. It just means they're wrong. Uh, but when it comes to history, when it comes to war or conflict, there's no such like I said, there's no such thing as a just war. There's no such thing as a good war. The only time you're justified in making war is in pure defense. And what I mean by pure defense is means you've done nothing to instigate this 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 situation. So I'll go to a something far less serious, but that's happened recently in the pro wrestling world with our boy CM Punk in AEW.
Yeah.
AEW has a problem with people there instigating and causing trouble. CM Punk, you could say, was even maybe one of them. Fine, doesn't really matter. That's not my point. My point is, you don't get to Pikachu face when things turn aggressive or violent when you're out here intentionally poking the bear. You don't get to get mad at the
Yeah.
bear because he bit your head off when you poked him with a stick. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. It's
Yep.
just like uh people get mad at like a dog. So you have a dog, the
Mhm.
dog's sitting there, he's growling at you. He's telling you, leave me the fuck alone. Right? He's growling at you. And yet you fuck with him. You come up, you try to pet him, you start poking him, you start, whatever. And then you get all, oh, he's a mean dog when he bites you. No, stupid. He warned you. He said, stop it. You didn't stop it. So there's consequences. It's the same thing. And that's what most conflicts are. Very, very few of them are just, fuck it, let's go kill them. There's a reason for that. There's a reason it got to that point. And
Yeah.
until people are willing to do, it's kind of funny. So, Doctor Who, the show Doctor Who, everybody loves Doctor Who, at least we used to, at least a lot of us did. There is one part of Peter Capaldi's run that I actually really like. It's he's giving a speech trying to avoid a war, and he basically says what you're going to end up doing is after all that killing, you're going to do what you should have done at the beginning. You're going to sit down and talk, and that's correct. Most of the time, these problems can be solved. Most, not always. Sometimes violence is required, but most of the time, problems can be solved if people actually have good faith, open discussions. They have dialogue. The problem is people don't attend that. They show up to the talks, but they're not there in good faith. They're there to find a way to justify their actions or rationalize away future actions. And that's just how human nature is. And that is why it's so obscene when you see people who have what I call Hollywood brain and they look in these terms of black and white. So like a great example nowadays, on the world stage geopolitically is Russia and Ukraine. Oh, Russia's the bad guys. Oh, Ukraine's the bad guys. Like, come on. Like, what are we
Never
doing?
that simple, is it? Yeah.
It's just not that easy. I
Yeah.
wish it was. It'd be nice, but it's just not that easy.
No, nothing is.
And that's human nature. That's the reality of all human conflict. That's the reality of what happened in America. That's the reality of what happened with the European expansionism. It's never as simple as these guys bad, these guys good.
Mhm.
It just isn't.
Yep.
No.
And like Chester, like you said, the British Empire, the Brits don't get the credit they deserve. They
No.
invented, and it took them a long time. They invented the most important invention they created was British common law. It is the
Yep.
best in the world. No one else touches it. And when it is utilized by a people of any race or creed, they thrive. It's happening right now in Nigeria. Right now, they're adopting British common law into their law structures, and it's working.
Yep.
It is the best thing the Brits ever invented, and they don't get credit for it because people don't think of law and language and these sorts of things as inventions, but they absolutely are. That's what they are. And they're technology, just like anything else.
Yeah.
And
And we've seen examples of it throughout history. Hammurabi, of course, is probably the most famous, but every
Yep.
culture in the past has had their introduction of important innovations in law and things like that.
yep, yep.
Yep,
And the
that's
Brits
true.
don't get the credit they deserve. It's because of their common law that slavery, as it was anyway, was ended in the Atlantic trade. It's because of their common law that the American Constitution exists at all, the way that it does, with the clauses and things that it has in it. British common law is the probably the best invention. I would say probably the greatest invention out of Britain as a country, as like a
Mm.
unit. The best thing they ever gave to the world.
English
And they did
mustard's pretty
that.
good.
It is. They did that all over the world. Everywhere they quote colonized, they brought it with them,
Oh yeah, they changed the world.
and
Yeah.
that changed the entire world forever. But you're not going to get that, you see, because we have to pretend that colonization was always bad, wrong, and evil. And I'm not saying there wasn't times where it wasn't. Of course there was. But on the whole, I think the world's a better place because of it.
No,
Because
no, they
the
certainly lifted it into the modern time. That's true.
Europeans could have just said fuck it, stayed in Europe. They could have. They could have did that. But they didn't because one, they wanted to go see what was out there. Two, they wanted to stop eating shitty food. That's the truth. And three, they had a conqueror's and adventurer's spirit, and they needed to fulfill. There was wanderlust was in the air. The world was something to go be discovered and be conquered.
We whites are full of that gene,
Yeah.
the wanderlust gene. We always have been. Understand that
Yep.
there's no people on, we talk about migrations, right? There's no human group on Earth that has migrated more and further than the whites.
The white
We
man.
are
Yeah.
migrated all across this planet. No other group is migrated like we have. Frick, shit, the Indians haven't left. They ain't gone nowhere. They're right
They've been
there.
hanging out.
All right, but the whites, we just migrated everywhere,
Yeah,
and we still do.
true.
But I have one more question today before we finish up, and
Uh-oh.
we've been goofing and stuff as we usually do. We're just a bunch of yahoos pontificating in the end, aren't we? But
Pretty
but I do have a serious question. Now,
Uh-oh.
the on-the-ground leader of Hamas, not the Qatari rich fat cats. I'm talking about the actual dude making decisions on the ground. I can't remember his name, but of course you've seen him on the TV recently, obviously. But
Yep.
according to the Americans, the Europeans, and the Israelis themselves, he's some kind of mad genius. I mean, he's very smart, is what they say. Right now, is this simply that your enemy is smart, therefore you are smarter? I don't know. But they seem legitimately to think he's very clever and they need to take that into account. Okay, fine. Let's assume that's true. All right. Therefore, if this genius had a plan that they were working on for a couple of years, it sounds like, what is the goal here? What is the ultimate game plan? Is it going according to plan? Has it gone sideways on them? Because what did they do? We have the instructions from some of these. Because keep in mind, when they went into the kibbutz, it's not a situation where they went and just killed everyone easily. Most of the time, when the Israeli army went into these kibbutz and found all these dead and abducted people, there are literally dozens of Hamas dead soldiers around. They fought back. It wasn't. It isn't this just pure massacre. There was a fight, firefight, sustained firefight in some situations. However, we have their paper of their instructions, several different groups, and they were going to very specific places to do very specific things. In those paperwork, we're going to kill as many as possible. We also need these kind of hostages, and they seem to have pulled off exactly what they wanted to pull off as far as this paperwork we have that some of these soldiers, these Hamas soldiers, were carrying. And so, okay, part one of the plan went well. I mean, from their point of view, right?
Yeah.
But what's the game plan here? What's the long plan? What I mean, Israel's going to respond, obviously, because you always do. You guys throw rockets, they throw rockets. It's been going on for freaking decades, right? But this time they had a different game plan, which they executed quite well. I mean, because it's more involved than just breaking through a fence. They actually got in there and put a virus in that jammed up the the alert system in the security along the gate. There's all kind of complex things that took place. It wasn't just kill. It was more complicated than that. What's the ultimate game plan though? Because here they are. Egypt doesn't give a shit about them, but they should know that. Egypt has never given a shit about them. The Jordanians don't give a shit because the Jordanians are constantly having to fight against their own Palestinian population, which they can't stand, right?
Yep.
The Lebanese are the only ones that have been kind of friendly, but the Lebanese are on their knees. They can't help you. You must have known this, right? Syria is absolutely obliterated. There's not much they can do. Iran's far. They'll send you money, but they can't do much more. It's just, what's the game plan? I mean, seriously, if this guy's supposed to be some kind of genius, then what did you expect to happen after? What's the plan, you think?
I don't know. That is the ultimate question, right? So, what is the end game here?
Yeah,
What does winning look like? Yeah,
yeah.
and that's a question that America doesn't ask itself often enough when it starts conflicts. But that is the
You mean
question
ever?
that everybody's asking. Yeah, that is the question.
Well, that's
Well, I'd
because
say
it doesn't
Jefferson.
happen on their soil. That's why they don't worry about it.
That's true.
I think
American
Jefferson knew what he was
convenience.
doing when it came to the war with the Barbary Pirates. But
I
that's
mean, he
I
did.
digress.
He did. But
Um,
like, he was a smart man.
he was very smart. But anyway, my point is, I don't know. Only they can answer that question. What if I had to completely speculate? Is they're hoping that by hitting Israel enough, that Israel will respond and that it will drive people to their cause, like it's a martyrdom play, effectively.
So you think
Be,
they want Israel to come in and just hit Gaza?
yeah, hit as hard as they hit with everything they got, basically.
Yeah, but
Because
I get that.
the
But once
reason I
again,
think that,
there's not enough push around them right now. It's just a bad timing, I think, in that regard.
well, maybe their plan didn't come to fruition, but the reason why is because they have to know. Everybody knows, like you said, everybody knows Israel's got nukes. Had them for years. They're not supposed to have them, but they do. You're not going to conquer them.
Yeah, and
They'll
they're
just
not going
nuke
to
you.
use it anyway in this situation.
Well, they
But
won't use it on Gaza, but if Iran got involved, hell yeah,
they
they
might.
would.
They
I
might.
don't I don't put it past them.
I wouldn't put it past them at
Uh,
all. That's true. But I mean,
so I think the Palestinian plan, or Hamas's plan, is completely and utterly stupid
it
because
seems so.
the only thing they could possibly gain is some form of broader public attention, right? Because they're not going to push Israel out.
But
Clearly,
they
that's just
already
not going to
have
happen.
tons of public attention. There's so
Yeah,
many groups that support Palestine. It's not like
yeah.
they're suffering for no attention. They get a lot of it, right? They get a lot of money pumping in there.
The
Um,
only other thing I could think is we don't know the whole story yet. And what I mean by that is maybe somebody else is preparing to make a play as well. And this is just step one of
yeah,
a multiple step plan.
yeah, and maybe, and that's my thoughts on it, on the situation, because it's very weird. I mean, they broke out, they attacked checkpoints, killed soldiers. Okay, no problem. I mean, soldier fighting soldier, that's war, right? Um, killing and raping and taking female hostages. I don't like it, but I get it. That's like old school
Happens.
war that's been going on
Yeah.
forever. I get that. Killing a lot of your enemy to create terror, it's the point. I get that. The thing with the babies, though, and it's not just the killing of babies and grandma. I mean, and that's going to get response from humans, and not necessarily the kind of response you want, right? But also taking babies and grandma hostages. Those are not good hostages. There's a lot of work involved in keeping a baby and grandma alive.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's not the most useful. Young women, young men, perfect hostages. Great. How they want their children back. It's a useful hostage. But I don't know. I'm wondering if the Hamas soldiers were given. Well, no, because we have the papers and they said to do what they did. They did exactly what they were told to do. So I don't know. I just can't understand what's the end goal, because they tell me, if they were just a bunch of dumb savages, all right. But they're telling us, all these countries are telling us that the guy in charge of Hamas is a very, very intelligent man, super smart, scary smart. So, all right. So what's the plan? I don't know. Grimlock, what do you think?
I don't know what their end game is. Like you said, I don't think kidnapping babies and old women is a prudent war strategy.
No, I
Uh,
understand they're trying to create terror, but I mean, we literally, Hamas is, then once again, don't care what Israel has to say. What is Hamas saying? They literally are gloating about taking 40 babies outside, tying them up, pouring gasoline over there, and lighting them on fire. This is their words. Now, Israel confirmed it because they
monstrous shit.
found it, the body of dead bodies, they confirmed it. But Hamas is the one that told us this. And it is gruesome shit. But I mean, this is beyond the pale. You got to piss off 99% of all humans on Earth in an extreme way. Whereas if you just killed soldiers, took some pretty girls as hostages, you're gonna have lot less response from the world, because we kind of get it, right? But the baby thing, dude, people, you don't do that. It's just like you don't kill the dog. I mean, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to be a logical choice. I know you're trying to create terror. I get the concept, but it's a step too far as humanity is concerned.
Yes.
So I just don't know. It seems bizarre to me what they really think is going to
It is
happen.
a strange play. I don't think that they're so blinded by hatred and zealotry that they actually think they can push the Jews, as they call them,
You would think
out
though,
of Israel.
or even
Yeah,
that they could win. They got to know they can't win. They know
Not that
this.
way.
there's no way. There's no way. But maybe they do. Maybe it is that simple.
Just
Sometimes the
arrogance.
simplest answer is
God
just
is with
simple
them.
arrogance.
Yeah.
Yep.
The Ayatollah over in Iran said that Israel is evil and God is going to give them earthquakes. Well,
Okay.
shit, if you can call on God readily, well, get on that shit. I mean, damn.
Yeah, wait a minute. You can just be like, "Hey, God, earthquake them," and you ain't been
Earthquake
doing
from
it. What are
God.
you doing? What are you
God,
doing, huh?
famine that over there, please, God.
Yeah,
That would
real
be
quick.
handy.
Be a
That'd be
power to have, huh?
super
Holy
handy.
crap!
Yeah.
Give me some of that.
I don't know. It is so bizarre to me because it's just such an extreme move. I mean, there's so many terrorist things they could have done that would have got much lighter response.
Yes.
Because most people are just, you get these idiots up there making their noise, but like I said, 20% of any population. But most humans on Earth are like, yep, yeah, I get it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pareto principle is real. It's
Yeah.
real in all facets of reality, it
Yeah.
seems.
Don't do that to the babies, dude. I mean, you want to create shock and awe. You kidnap and rape women. That people don't like it, but they're not gonna go to war stance over it, right? As sad as that is,
Yeah.
but it's not. We won't. Grandma, you really shouldn't be fucking with grandma. People don't like that either. But the baby thing, dude, damn. And like I said, the Jews in Israel, just the Israelis. There's all kinds of people. It's not just Jews, but the Israelis, sure, they'll lie about that shit. Just like the Muslims will, or anybody else. Everyone's always lying for their side in a war, of course. But like I said, I don't care what the Israelis say. It's Hamas is telling me.
Yeah.
And that's the issue. Yeah, I don't know. But wait, it still brings me back to that one little thing I said earlier. You have a big election taking place in Gaza nearly 20 years ago, right? And the
Yeah.
PLO has been in charge forever, and they've gotten a lot of success for you. I mean, Yasser Arafat, he had a lot of success because what do the Jews usually do? You throw some rockets at them, they'll throw some back, and then they capitulate. I mean,
Right.
keep in mind, the Jews have given a lot of land back. They didn't have to. They gave back the entire Sinai, the Gaza. They've given a lot of shit back, right? They always capitulate. That's what they always do, right? They always capitulate. But yet we find ourselves in a situation where the tenor is different. If you go listen to the Jews and see they're not thinking that way anymore. They're angry. And can you blame them?
They've been riled.
They have been riled. And it's like you don't want to actually piss your enemy off in a war. I know that sounds weird, but you don't. You don't
Right.
want to
Well,
create actual martyr. You don't want to do
as
that.
Jesus said, love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you. Now, why would he tell his people that? A few reasons. But one of them is what you just said. Do not want your enemy to hate you back. Because if they hate you, they'll never stop. They'll
Yeah.
come at you with everything. They'll destroy. There's no limit to the depravity of what they'll like. Um, Gandhi, Gaddafi. What they did to him is beyond barbarism. Like I can't even. I don't think I'm allowed to describe it on YouTube.
You probably not.
Uh,
Don't. Yeah.
it,
But it's
it was
horrible. Yeah.
beyond barbaric, and it was
Hillary was
simply
happy
because
though.
they hated
She
him.
was happy.
Of course,
Yeah.
she was cackling, but it was simply because his enemies hated him enough to do that,
Sure.
and that is why.
Yeah.
If you can keep your enemy, they're still your enemy. Understand, they're still the enemy, but if you can keep it some form of civil, that's a lot better than the
Mhm.
alternative.
And
And yeah,
yeah, well, then the last question I have is this one. Now, we know that what we call Jew today has a very long history.
yeah,
There are Semitic people in the Middle East, which are basically Arabs, right? And they've split themselves into two groups. You got the Hebrew types and you got the Arab types, and the Arab types now have their type of Judaism, which they call Islam, right? But they're basically Arabs, right? The Semitics, if you maybe that's just an easier term. You got those types. You got the converted types and the Khazars or the Ashkenazi, as they like to be called. But they've been diligently practicing Jews for what 1,200 years. So I mean they're
mhm,
Jews, right? But we got all kinds. Sammy Davis Jr. was a freaking Jew. All right. So I'm just saying that you have all these Jews, no matter what walk of life they come in, right, or what race they are. But here's a legitimate question. We have histories from all over that region in Europe and Asia and other places. And the Jews are always being murdered. We have so many countries that have said kill all Jews before even this Islam shit, right?
oh yeah,
With the Canaanites and the Egyptians and the Romans, the Greeks, and they're Jews, but they're not culturally so or
right.
religiously so, right? But they're actually Hebrew types, right? Egyptian Hebrews. But anyway, we have a ridiculous amount of history of kill all Jews. Why?
Uh, they're troublemakers.
Yeah, but I mean, everybody has their ups and downs, their darkened times and their light
Yeah.
times. Everyone
Well,
has
here's
it.
why. You want to know why they're allowed? Well, when they're troublemakers, it's worse. It's not even necessarily what they're doing individually. It's the fact that they do it as a and that they own it as a community and that they're so tightly knit. That's a double-edged sword.
Is it
Because if
jealousy?
you no no if you keep your community so tight that you demand certain things specifically for them and you do not allow outsiders in without conversion and you're very very tight, which is a big benefit to them, it also has a downside. That downside is when something goes wrong, you all get blamed. And if you do not, because they don't want to break their community up, they'll go to great lengths to continuously defend each other to the point where they do ridiculous things. Like the foundation of the ADL was founded to defend a Jewish pedophile and murder rapist or something. And that's one of the reasons why that stuff happens. Is because when you have decided, it's kind of like police in America, right? Police act as effectively a gang. That's how they act. They have
Yeah,
the
because they
idea of the
are.
thin blue
That's what they
line,
are. Yeah.
da 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 da. So when they get and for a long time they get a lot of universal praise. Well, I'm sorry, but you can't have universal praise without universal guilt. If you want to collectivize like that, you're allowed to do so, but there's consequences to that.
Yeah, but
And
don't you
that
think
is what happens with the Jews.
don't you think it's a
Certain Jews, like the Zionists, will cause trouble, and because they are united as this one block, and they don't differentiate themselves enough, that's why that happens. It's very simple. It's not because, your accountant who happens to be Jewish is out here trying to overthrow your government or whatever reason the governments have come up with to do this. It's because oftentimes American Jews are a little bit different because they're not really, I mean, they're more American than they are anything
they're
else.
secular, they're not
Yeah.
religious.
But
They're
the
not at all.
communities all around the world, especially, they're very tight knit. That tight knitness, like I said, it makes you a ball. That ball is very strong. It's very hard to break the ball. Sphere is one of the strongest, shapes in geometry. However, it's very easy to hit the entire ball at once. So that's what they do. Instead of trying to delineate and differentiate people who don't want to be differentiated, the people's in power are just like, all right, well then get all of them out. Fuck 'em.
Yeah.
Get out.
Well, yeah, I get your point, but it also seems very simplistic because
Yeah.
yes, noisy troublemaker, okay, but genocide?
Well,
It's
I
a
mean
bit of an extreme step, don't you think?
that seems to be how we handle troublemakers historically. Just kill them. Just kill that son of a bitch. Shut him
I
up.
guess. It
Uh,
just
I
seems it's a
mean,
little
think about it.
baffling to me.
Think about it. Even in like the New Testament in the scriptures, uh, why was Jesus put to death in the scripture in the text?
Jews are the
Because
ones that killed him.
he was committing blasphemy. He was causing trouble. Basically,
He
he was
said
a
he was the
troublemaker
Messiah.
to the order. Yeah, they didn't like that, so he had to go. Same reason with John the Baptist. Why did he get killed? Because he embarrassed the king's bitch, basically his
Hmm.
whore, and she didn't like that, so he had to go.
Yeah,
It's
but
the
these
same
are
thing,
individualistic. These are
but that's
singular
my point.
targets.
These people intentionally collectivize to a very, very tight degree. So when somebody decides that these gotta go, they all go. You can't untie the knot just to get the one guy out when they refuse to let the knot go.
Yeah, no,
So
I
it's
get your point. I
partially
just think
on
it's
them
simplistic.
because of their unity, but it's also on the people not wanting to take the time to figure out, to
Yeah.
dive into it and figure out who's who,
All,
which is
all,
one of the reasons why the Zionist movements have been so successful. They can
well, yeah,
hide.
yeah. Keep in mind, esoterically, just our
Yeah,
surface level, the Zionists are simply a group from the 19th century that were petitioning the British to take the Jews back into Israel. That's what the Zionists,
correct.
on paper, right? We know it's more
Yeah,
involved. There's a lot of money behind it, banking and stuff. But well, that's basically what a Zionist is. But I did see the Israelis do something very cute over the past week, and I know the word cute and war don't usually go together. However,
yeah.
because like I
Oh,
said, mostly what I was watching, because I'm working on other things, is I just had those live feed streams going, just looking at Gaza. And up on the northern ridge, there's a ridge, right? An
yeah.
embankment. I noticed there was this stream of lights, and every day the lights got longer and longer and longer. And then finally, 5 or 6 days in, I realized what it was. It was the Israeli army putting just every night adding a few more another battalion of soldiers on the hill, right? To
Mm,
now it's like this, I don't know, it's quite a distance, a kilometer long maybe, of
yeah.
their army, and it's super cute. I mean, how many times in the Bible have you read about the Israelis standing on the hill above their enemy with the torches in their hands? I mean, so
Yeah.
many, right? But it's
Yep.
so Israeli. It's such an Israelite Hebrew thing to do.
Yes.
Them just standing on the hill.
It's kind of what our boy Grimlock talks about with the American black community. They don't kick out their I'll say lower class, but he uses a different word. And because they won't do that,
Urbanite.
they all get hit
The
with the same
niggas.
blame.
Oh,
Yeah,
them. Yeah.
The white man doesn't do that by and large. We deal with our problems.
No, we
We
are
deal with it
we are a
brutally.
disaster, diaspora type of people anyway.
Yeah, and we deal with that shit as soon as we can. Typically speaking, we don't tolerate. I mean, we used to hang people for stealing horses. We used to hang people for killing deer in the king's lands. Like, we didn't fuck around. Is my point. They didn't fuck
Yeah, well,
around.
we need to deal with the Karen though.
The Karen. Well, we just need to bring back. What was it called? I think it was called like shrew laws. I think is what it was called. Where basically you weren't allowed to be like that in public. It was not. It was illegal.
Yeah.
Just bring those back. We'll handle
Bring back
Karen real quick.
backhanding a bitch.
Yeah. The white man needs to get his pimp hand back. Is what he's saying.
Yeah, well, the
Bring back
problem
the
is
pimp hand.
you creating all these households and
Yep.
single mother households and all these mother raising kids and women given all these jobs and power. I mean, it's such a weird concept because when you look at it esoterically, you say, well, women should be able to do whatever they want. Yes, that would
Okay.
be the
They got
logical correctness. However, it comes down to a weird thing of just because you can do a thing doesn't mean you should. Simple fact of the
That's
matter is women should be home building families, building
well,
communities, building cultures. What they should be doing. Just
the
because you logically and truthfully should have the right to do whatever you want, women really shouldn't be doing that. They really shouldn't.
yes.
And it's
well
allowed
the
the incredible degeneration of our culture.
great Thomas Sowell once said that life is about choices and trade-offs, right? And
Yep.
women were. Let's be honest. I can't blame all of them because it wasn't all of them. It was a certain group of women that sold the rest of women a
Yeah,
bill of goods.
yeah, but it
It was,
effectively is the zeitgeist, though.
yeah,
Yep.
but look what they got. Okay, so you got out into the workforce and you've been able to do whatever you want. But look at your trade-off. Do we have studies to prove this? This is not me just spewing opinion. Studies have shown. We got 40 years of data. You got the so-called jobs, equality, and all this shit, and you're unhappier than you've ever been. You're fatter than you've ever been. You're on more drugs than you've ever been. There are more alcoholics of you than there've ever been. Oh, and you're lonelier than you've ever been.
Oh, the wine mom? Yeah, that's true.
So,
There was a
so
statement.
okay, so you got a job and you have social media clout. But I mean, let's be honest. If you look up the definition of Pyrrhic victory, it's second wave feminism should be
Good way to put it.
right there as the definition of Pyrrhic victory
That's a good way.
because you lost way more than you won.
That's true. That is very, very true. We've lost so much. But
It's just your stubbornness to admit that you was wrong is the only reason you're still holding on to this shit.
yeah. Well,
Not you.
Well, I know what you mean. Yeah, no, you're right. But in the long list of Israeli prime ministers since their inception in '48, and of course, keep in mind the British were already starting to do this with the Zionists back in the 19th century. Keep that in mind. You have David Ben Gurion, right? And that's 19th century. You're getting into that period of their involvement. But nevertheless, there was only one female leader in their entire history. Her name was Golda Meir. Golda Meir, however you pronounce it. And the only female leader they've ever had. And she has made possibly one of the best statements ever made about the Middle East. And in my opinion, there's all kind of people pontificating, and the Jews love to make things that everyone's, "Ooh, that was wise." They want you to perceive them that way, right? But she
Yep.
made the best statement, and it is very simple, and this is it. There will be peace in the Middle East when Muslim mothers love their children more than they hate ours. Damn.
Well, that's a nice
That's-
sentiment, but it ain't true.
But it is true, though. It is true.
No, it ain't.
Look what they let their kids get into. Look what they allow
It'll
their
be-
kids to
it'll
go
be
into. Look what
true-
they
it'll be
promote their
true.
children to do.
It'll be true until they find another reason to hate each other. This is just the one they used.
I'm just saying
But
it
that-
is a poignant point, though.
That
Yeah.
part of the world, especially, has been at war since there's been people there.
That's true.
They're always fighting.
That's true.
And Islam wasn't always there. Judaism wasn't always there. There was other things there, and they were still fighting.
No,
Oh,
by canon itself, it is not Hebrew land. Matter of fact,
correct.
does anyone here know how the Hebrews came to claim it? Anybody?
I know what the Bible
Trade
says, but
deal.
what is the
Well, tell
real
me
way?
what you think the Bible says on how the Hebrews got the
Well,
Levant.
they conquered it.
Nope,
What do you mean?
that is not it. That's not it.
That's what the Bible says they
It's
did.
not what the Bible says. They've had to fight for it. They've had to reconquer it on several occasions. True,
Correct.
but that's not how they got it. Right? And the
Tell
way
me.
they got it is very, very simple, and it's a very interesting little tale that everyone has seemed to have forgotten. And of course, keep in mind the dude I'm about to talk about is sacred to all the Abrahamics because his name is frickin' Abraham.
Yeah,
Right? Now, Abraham was the son of a high priest in Sumer.
that's
Right?
right.
Sumerian high priest. Now, that's not no Hebrew god, right? Those are Sumerians, right? And
Sure.
he was not some stupid dirty sheep herder. He was a rich kid, and he was a very high level kid. Because keep in mind, in those days, the priesthood and the bureaucracy are the same thing,
Correct.
right? This is one of the problems Islam has in this current time is they haven't separated it. We fought a brutally bloody war to separate church and state. People forget how many people died for that. So much
Yeah.
blood spent to simply separate church and state. Back in those days, as traditionally humans are, there is no separation. So this is an elite nobleman, Abraham.
Correct.
He's not some dirty little sheep herder. I hate that Hollywood image of him. He's a elite nobleman. And what happened was he was trying to be more of a statecraft, a statesman is what he was trying to do, and not following in completely in his father's footsteps to become a high priest. But he was a priest, right? So what happened? There was some rumors of war and some nonsense going on, and the king went to him and said, "Okay, Abraham, I need you to go over to Egypt." Kemet at that time, it was called Kemet, not Egypt. I need you to go over to Kemet, and I need you to talk to the king there and negotiate. And I want you to get some army people, and I want you because we can't. They had a deal at that time with the Commissions, right? We can't move any of our soldiers to deal with it. We have to keep them where they are. We need more help. I want you to go over to Egypt. I want to convince that king to give you a bunch of soldiers, and I want you to go up and hold that area. And if you do hold that area, which it's just a pass, right? Going up into what we call the Levant today. If you do that, I'll give you that land to manage. He did. He went to Egypt. He convinced the Commission king to give him soldiers. He took those soldiers. He went up and held that pass. They had no battle. They did not see a battle. They just kind of sat there. But he was given what he was promised by the Sumerian king.
Mm.
That land. That is how Abraham got the Levant. He's a rich kid. He's a nobleman who was given basically baronship over a territory, right? That's how it all started. And then, of course, later, that he started building, they started doing their thing up there in the Levant, building Jerusalem. And then, of course, you had various invaders come in, and they lost control of it. They got back control of it. The Egyptians got involved. I mean, it was all kind of, the history. We all know it, right?
Mm.
But it all started with the nobleman, the rich boy, Abraham, simply given a mission by a Sumerian king. So
Yeah.
understand that all these people, especially the Hebrews, and everyone says this, but the Hebrew people or Jewish people, as we say today, but keep in mind, they don't call themselves Israelites for a reason. They call themselves Israelis. You'll never hear themselves call themselves Hebrew, right? But
Correct.
nevertheless, they constantly say this is land given to us by God. God gave us this land. That is not true. A Sumerian king gave it to you.
Well, maybe that's who their god is.
I'm just saying that's the reality of it. A Sumerian king gave you this land lease, and that lease was
Correct.
up a long time ago. Keep that in mind. But they fought for it many times. They had to go back and fight for that land. Even you can even look at the modern thing as being a fighting for that land again. But the thing is, these people who connect themselves to Judaism, to Judaism, whether they're born into it or not, these people who connect themselves to it have been fighting over that land forever. literally since Abraham, right?
Yep.
And I kind of wonder if with the Islam we have a little bit of an envy thing going on, because we know the story of Abraham, right? And what was his wife's name? I forget.
Sarah?
Was it Sarah? Maybe it was Sarah. She did have a pretty name. But they didn't have a kid, and she was concerned about it. She was like, "Well, you really need to take one of these concubines, one of these slave girls, because I understand. Like, well, that's more of indentureship. All right, whatever, slave girl, and make a baby because you're a nobleman. You're a very high level man. You need to have offspring." His wife was insistent upon it, right? And he was like, oh, "Okay, fine." Then angels came and said, "Well, God's going to give you a baby." And he's like, "Oh, okay, I'll believe in God." But then his wife was being so persistent. He was like, "All right, fine." So we went and made a baby with a slave girl, right? And then, of course, Sarah gets pregnant, right? And as soon as Sarah gets pregnant, get that bitch and her whore kid out of here,
Yeah.
right?
As they do.
Immediately
Yep.
was what happened. And of course, what did Abraham do? Exactly what he was told to do, right?
Correct.
And of course, Ishmael into the desert. And this is what supposedly is given us Islam. That's what they claim. That's their claim,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
That they are Israel, and of course, the whole your people will become as countless as the stars, all that kind of stuff. So the Islamists literally name themselves after Ishmael, this bastard kid, right? But yet,
Yep.
in the end, he was thrown out. And the Jews in that religion have always been said to be God's people. Always, because it's their religion. Of course they're God's people. But now,
Right. They made it up.
well, I'm just saying, now you have a situation where you have the Christians, which you can't separate yourself from that as a Christian. You can't. The Jews are God's
Well,
people. They're chosen people, and you have to support and protect Israel. It says many times in the Bible. As a Christian, you cannot separate yourself from that, but the Muslims can't either, because they
I
connected
would
themselves to that shit. Well, no, let me finish real quick. But here's
go
the
ahead.
thing. I kind of wonder if somewhere deep in their quiet little subconscious hearts, they're envious of the Jews,
No.
because
I can
God
tell you
chose them.
as
Because
a
they're true
person who was
believers, dude. They're true believers.
as a person who was raised in a church who didn't preach that doctrine because that doctrine isn't fully accurate. Uh, and I can tell you why in a minute. No, it's not jealousy. And the reason why it happens, that's the cope that Jews make because they can't stop being troublemakers, is simply because the people who keep kicking them out and who keep doing these things to them are typically very often of European descent, and European people believe in reciprocity. Our entire basis of our society and civilization for the last 4,000 years is based on the principle of reciprocity because we used to be a bunch of raiders and pirates and brigands, and then one day we all got together and came up with this brilliant idea of let's work together instead of against each other. And it took a while, but by and large, that's how Europe operates today.
Attila
Um,
helped.
he did.
He did,
So that's why that keeps happening to
ironically.
them. It's largely their actions and the fact that they refuse to disassociate from the bad actors. They just won't do it. I don't know why. I don't know why their loyalty is so strong that they'll ignore evil, but they will. And they've done it repeatedly throughout history. We know this. This isn't even really debatable. Uh, and that's why that keeps happening to them. Eventually, basically, the people in power, kind of like Pontius Pilate did, say, "Okay, if that's what you want, that's what you get." That's what he did with Jesus. He asked them, "What do you want?" And they said, "We want Jesus." He said, "Okay, I don't see anything wrong with him. I washed my hands of it. All
Yeah, the
right,
Romans
you
didn't give
can."
a shit. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
But my point is that Roman mentality is European. Romans were Europeans. That Roman mentality is a very European mindset. So the reason why Europeans specifically, I don't know about the rest of the world, but Europeans specifically do that and why that happens. It did happen to the Jews a lot, but it happened to other people too. It wasn't just the Jews that got treated this way. Uh, ask the gypsies. Uh, there's a reason why they behave this in this manner, and it's because of the core moral principle of the West is reciprocity, and we're the only ones who actually have that as a core moral principle. It's why we thrive because we believe in the concept of reciprocity,
Yeah.
and we're very merciful with it. Like we said, we took a long damn time before they tried the Crusades, but they eventually did. and had some success. That's
Oh
neither here
well,
nor
I
there.
would consider it incredible success. They kept the Muslim Islam out of Europe. That's
True,
success.
which was the goal. Which was the goal. Um, but my point is, when you get to the Jews as the chosen people of God, right? I would say there is you can look at it and take it that way, sure. However, the New Testament is very clear that that covenant was broken by the Jews. Very clear.
Let me intercede here for a second and quote Grimlock.
Uh-oh.
You're bringing logic into an illogical conversation.
But that's the point, though, right?
Yeah,
That's the whole
but
point.
I'm talking about the Islam, right? And well, the thing is, they are true believers, dude. They are true believers, much more than
Correct.
modern Christians and Jews are. They are true believers, and
Right.
the logic doesn't necessarily have to apply to faith. It often doesn't. I'm just
In fact,
wondering
it
if there
shouldn't.
isn't something in their heart there, because these are true believers, that is pushing this along. Because
I don't think
sure,
it has to be envy, though. I'm not saying it's not a vice or a sin. I don't think it's necessarily envy. I think what it is disdain. It's hatred. It's true hatred. Not motivated by jealousy, not motivated by pride or anything. It's kind of like if you have a really successful brother, yeah, you can be motivated by envy, but if you know why that brother is successful and you're not, it's a lot of times it's not that they're jealous of their brother. It's the fact that they hate their brother because they went through similar things. They know where they're coming from and they see him as full of shit, basically.
I see.
So I
I
think
need to
it's
find it.
more of that than it is anything. There could be some of this idea of envy, but I think when it comes to Islam specifically, I just genuinely think they believe that Ishmael had the birthright of Abraham and
Which he
not Isaac,
technically would. Yeah.
which he technically would, and because of that, they think that these people are usurpers. They think they're liars. They think they're deceivers.
Yeah, but
And
Abraham's the one that, well, excuse me, Abraham's wife is the one that usurped you, not Isaac.
correct. So if anything, you should hate Sarah, that
Yes,
bitch.
Sarah. Sarah's the one you should be angry at.
Yeah.
Or her husband for being so feckless. Yeah, I said it.
Yes.
Come at me, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
But you know
it's
what? I need
largely
to
it's
sit.
largely that I think.
Someone find me a Muslim. Now I
Well, the
need to have a
problem is
conversation. I want to know. I want to understand the mentality here.
the problem I think with what you're going to find if you talk directly to a true believer of Islam is they're going to say their answer is going to be because they are heretics, basically some form of that, right? Blasphemers,
Mhm.
heretics,
But
idolaters, whatever.
has anyone
Uh,
done that? Has anyone actually sat down and talked to an Islamist and just
oh, I'm
had a
sure.
conversation? I mean, I haven't seen it. I mean, I'd like to see just a conversation. Well, okay, how do you believe what you believe? Why do you believe? Just an honest, open, non-angry, just a simple conversation. I'd love to see it. You can't talk to the
I'll tell you
Jews.
this.
I mean, there ain't none of that
No,
going
they're
on
not.
because they'll just give you
Yeah.
fucking testimonials for hours.
Yes. Yes. But I'll say this: I've seen some Muslims because people misunderstand. Like you've said, Islam is basically just Christianity with extra steps.
Well, that's
Uh,
what they are. That's where that's their history anyway. Yeah. They're
Jesus
not
as Jesus
actually coming
Christ.
out of Ishmael. Shocking.
Jesus as in Jesus Christ is a big, 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 big deal in Islam. He's in fact only number two to Muhammad.
He's a prophet. Yeah.
He is the Christ. He is considered the Christ, and he will one day return as the Christ in Islam. That's how they believe. So there are a lot of um, Muslims who that's why they dislike Judaism is their disdain of Jesus. That's true. That's a fact because I've talked to them and
What you talk
they'll
about
tell me,
Jews? Yeah, they don't like Christians. They don't like Jesus at all.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's Muslims out there who have such a strong faith in Islam that they don't like any of the prophets besmirched in any way, right? That's a big no-no. And Jesus is considered the second to Muhammad. Muhammad's the great prophet. Jesus is right under him and the Christ. And they put him in a very high position in their religion.
Yeah.
They just don't obviously consider him God or the son of God or any of that stuff. So they don't like the way that certain Jewish scholars and whatever treat and talk about Jesus
Oh, well,
Christ. They
just go
they
read
despise
their
him.
books.
Yep.
Everyone talks about the Torah, but if you're an American, you've read the Torah. You went to
Correct.
church when you were a kid. You most certainly have. But read their because the Muslims have the Hadith, which is a collection
Yep.
of wisdoms from Muhammad, basically his life and times. But the Jews have a very similar collection of books, and it's the histories basically. And go read those things. They're just full of hardcore hatred of Jesus and his followers. I
Yep.
mean,
Hate them.
the average secular Jew doesn't have any problem with Christians at all, right? Because we give them money, we're friends, we protect them. But the
Sure.
Orthodox go to Israel, go to Jerusalem, and run into a bunch of Orthodox Jews and see how they treat you as a Christian.
Yep.
Seriously.
I would take a crazy stance, Chester, when it comes to if you're gonna be a hardcore by the Bible Christian, you have to be completely agnostic to any group of people as a group of people. Everybody is a sinner. Everybody is destined to hell. Your only job is to try and keep them from going to hell. That's
Yep.
it. Doesn't
Well,
matter
and
whether they're Jewish or Muslim
it's
or
true.
Hindu or any of it. That's what Jesus said.
It's
He
true.
literally commanded them to go into all the world and preach the gospel and disciple everybody.
Yes,
That's what he
and
said.
you're not responsible for converting them. I am. But
Correct.
yeah, that Jebus fella, he had a bunch of weird ideas that the Muslims and the Jews do not share. Little things like turn the other cheek, love
Yep.
thy neighbor as thyself. I mean, there's a whole bunch of them that Jebus
Love your
guy,
enemies.
love that. I mean, a whole bunch of these kind of nice things. And this is
Yep.
why you don't see Christians out there killing in the name of God anymore. Right? The
Correct.
Catholics are a different thing. That's a bureaucracy. It has nothing to do with faith at all. At all. But that's why you don't see Christians out there murdering peoples because the Jeebus guy, he was very clear about, hey, peace, love, dude. He was a hippie. He was a freaking hippie.
Well, I'll push back on that a little bit.
Well,
I
he
wouldn't
did.
say he was a
Well,
hippie,
I know what
but
the garden thing
I
and the
would
swords. I get
say,
it. Cut my ear. I get it. All right. But you know what I
yes,
mean. It's
I
far
would
more
say what
love
Jesus was.
and happiness than the other books.
There's a third position between pacifists and violent psychopath,
Yeah.
and that's where Jesus. Whereas, yeah, you want to be peaceful, but you don't want to be an idiot, right?
Well, don't
Like there has to come a point where you have to defend yourself and the people you love and it just is,
Well,
and
don't
I
do
think
like the
that's where Jesus
Ashkenazis
was.
in Europe during the war, where they literally
Yeah,
wouldn't even fight to protect themselves. I get your
they
saying.
just
Yeah,
walked into the chambers. Yeah,
yeah,
that's just
yeah, yeah.
stupid.
It's
Like, what are you
stupid.
doing?
Yeah, what are you doing? Yeah,
Uh, don't be. I like the saying, "Be open-minded, but don't be so open-minded that your brain falls out." Right? Like,
yeah.
let's pull it back a little bit. Let's have a little bit of
You shouldn't
self-preservation.
say
And
bad things to Grimlock like that. I've
I
quoted him
think
several
when,
times today.
in my opinion, the parable of the talents is where you can have the best argument that Jesus and God and his philosophy, or God Jesus's philosophy, is that you are
Alan.
responsible for the things that God gives you. You are responsible for defending them, for making them prosper, everything.
Mhm.
They are yours, and you must fight for them.
Yeah.
Fight to preserve them. And I think that, plus the fact, like you said, he did command his people to be armed and everything else. That's why I wouldn't say hippie. I would say he was a peaceful.
He's more
He was meek.
lovey-dovey.
He was meek. He was genuinely meek,
Yeah.
meaning I can
Well,
kill you, I can destroy you, but I'm not going to.
yeah. Well,
That's what he was.
Alan makes a very interesting point. He doesn't understand what he's actually said here. He didn't
Uh
turn water into patchouli oil, Chester. Fair enough.
oh.
But what did he turn it into? What
Wine.
did he turn it into wine? And what is that
Yep.
representing? What is the whole point of that? Think about the theology going on here because all of this is juxtaposing theology. Whether there
Correct.
was a Jesus or not, the theories, the concept, the representation of lifestyle and how to live your life is juxtaposing against the Jew. Even though Jesus is a Jew, everything he was saying was the Jews are wrong. This and we're doing it wrong. This is how we have to do it. And this is a perfect example. Why did he turn the water into wine? Because Moses turned the water into blood. Moses
That's right.
turned water into death. Jesus turned water into life.
That's
That's the
correct.
whole point. Everything
He
Jesus
was the
did can be
completion.
juxtaposed. Yes, he was, but it was also the opposite of what Moses did and what
Yes.
Abraham did and Isaac
Yes.
and all these other, Joseph and all these other guys. His is a direct response to no, we don't respond that way. We respond in this way that is
We
pro-life,
create.
not pro-death. Everything
Yes,
Jesus did can be juxtaposed against one of those previous prophets.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I think that is where that's why I don't like Christianity as a religion. They've taken things from the Torah, as you call it, the Old Testament, and they've put it, in my estimation, the fact that it's all in one book, they've put it as equal to Jesus. And that's silly because Jesus clearly came to complete what was started at that point. He,
Yeah.
he was the evolution of it, as you said. And I think that's one of the reasons why, to me, it's just silliness. You're doing a disservice to, you call yourselves Christians, which I think is heresy, but okay. You call yourselves that, fine. Act like it matters to you. Act like Jesus is the number one, the paramount, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. You call him all these nice things, but then you make him equal to dudes who are prophets. Why? They're just dudes. They're
Yeah.
just dudes that God gave visions to. That's all they are.
Right.
Jesus is supposed to be more than
Supposedly.
that.
Supposedly.
Yeah.
I had a grandpa, my wasn't my grandpa, great uncle that had those kind of visions too, but I think it was the wine. Yeah.
Well, wine can make you see some
But
things.
yeah, but no. Here's the thing, though. Now you got to keep in mind. I'm not going to sit here and say there wasn't a dude named Yeshua running around. Matter of fact, there were probably about 1 million of them because
That's
it
right.
was the most common name you could possibly have at the time. That and Mary. But I'm not going to argue the Yeshua thing. But I do know Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John was written by a a Jew for Vespasian. We know this, right? And that Jew, who is well versed in all those things, he was given a task, and he happily did so, it seems. But he's the one that created all those juxtapositions. Now, you got all that other stuff from Paul and all the things that came later, fair enough. But those initial books, which are talking about Jesus and his actions, are they did cleverly juxtapose it against Vespasian's son Titus and his actions fighting during the Hebrew War. But this this Jew guy who wrote all this stuff, he was considered one of the greatest minds of that era in Rome. But he clearly had a goal in mind.
Hmm.
Because clearly, if he's working for the Romans and happy to do those kind of things, he disagreed with where Judaism or Hebrewism was at the time. He clearly had objections because when you read that book, he's constantly showing that no, Moses wasn't right. This is the right way. Death is not right. Life is not right. Now I understand he's trying to do something that's going to calm the Jews and excuse me, the Hebrews and solve that issue. I get it. I get it. But he's also a Jewish theologian. He's a genius man. And I think he had alternative motives that were beyond the emperor's desires, is what I'm trying to say.
Could do. Well,
Yeah.
regardless, here's what I've always been my full stance on the historical Jesus, whether he existed or not, is it does not matter. Because if the concepts that are promulgated in the New Testament, if they are good and righteous and true, they don't need to be real. They just need to be good and righteous and true. And what I mean by that is love isn't real. Love isn't real. It doesn't exist. It only exists because we as people have decided it exists. There is no love in nature. However, it's still very, very true, right? We all feel it, we all live it, we all act upon it, and because of it, and we all are, most of us, or at least a lot of us, only exist in pursuit of it. Um, these sorts of concepts are enough for people to have what they need to have. So I personally, that's always been my position. I don't need God to be a real entity, whether he is or not. I believe he is, but let's say he's not. Okay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me because the truth is real that is being presented for in his name, right? Uh, what Pilate says is very interesting because, like you said, you think it was written by, or we have data that says it was
We
written
have
by,
all the evidence, yeah. But anyway,
oh,
go ahead.
by a Jewish scholar or whatever, scribe, whatever, for the Romans. it's interesting then that Pontius Pilate, what he says about Jesus, even through that lens, is very, very interesting. And and Pontius says, I can find no fault in this man. He didn't do anything wrong. To me, that's the capstone of what Jesus is, what Jesus as an idea is. The philosophy of Jesus Christ is perfect. I don't care who wrote it. I don't care where it came from. I don't care if it came down from little green spacemen. It's perfect. If you follow it, you
Yep.
will live a happy
Jo-
life.
Josephus was no joke, dude. He was
Yeah.
a genius. He really was.
And it's interesting to me because I told you this, I think, before we got on here. Maybe I did it right at the beginning. I've been reading the Gnostic texts, the
Yeah.
Gnostic Bible, if you will. Jesus is a prominent figure in that. He's still the
Very much
Christ.
so.
He's still very, very important. And by and large, his philosophy is pretty much the same. There's a little bit of difference here or there, largely that God of the Bible is actually an evil being, but that's different topic.
Well,
But
the
regardless,
demiurge, yeah.
yeah,
But keep in
Jesus
mind
is not
that Josephus, when he was doing his project, he didn't create something whole cloth. He took
correct.
it from what was around, and he
That's right.
clearly had alternative motives. And I think he took a lot from the Gnostics. He took some from the
Yep.
Mithrans as well, and he took a lot from the Jews, the
Taoists.
Hebrews.
There's a lot of
Yes, he took a
Taoism
lot
in
of
there.
stuff. But Roger, I would say go back and read the Exodus. Moses most certainly smote the rock in anger, which he wasn't supposed to do, which is one of the reasons why he was banned from getting into Canaan. Keep in mind,
In fact,
and
it was the main reason.
therefore, instead of water coming out, blood flowed because of
That's
his
right.
anger. His attitude was wrong.
See,
Correct.
if you was only there to tell him don't smoke rock, push rock, he'd have been fine.
Push
That's
rock.
right.
If he'd have
No,
just pushed rock,
don't
he'd been
smoke the
fine.
rock. Push the rock.
Push the
Yes.
rock.
But which I always thought was weird. Old Moses got himself a raw deal. I mean, because what did he get in trouble for? He got angry a couple times. Oh, you got angry, therefore you
Well,
don't go to get into Canaan. But all these other people who were worshiping golden idols at any opportunity they had are fine to get in.
Well, I agree with you that that's a little bit of a weird thing. I think the narrative is that his great sin was always his anger,
Yeah,
right? It's what
no, that's his
drove him
thing,
from
his anger.
from
Yeah.
Egypt to begin with. What drove him, what kept him from going back was the fact that he had done this horrible thing in anger, and da 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 da. Da. So the fact that he still had that problem where he was like, I don't know, like I think 160 or something, supposedly at the time, he still had this problem. God was like, all right, well, you haven't learned, so you don't get to get the reward, basically.
Although there is an extra biblical text that does say that he was dying in a wagon as they were heading
Yep.
into Canaan, and he did see the fields of Levant.
Yes.
There is an extra biblical book that talks about him actually seeing it, but he died before he got into Canaan.
Yep. That's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
My
Yeah.
point is, the point I was making with the Gnostic stuff and with Islam too, is for whatever he is, Jesus, the concept of Jesus, the spirit, if you will, of Jesus, of the Christ, of the Nazarene, is so powerful that multiple mythologies or religions, if you want to call it that, have him as a central
Oh
figure.
yeah, billions of people. Yeah.
Billions of people believe on this figure, on this character. That is a power that you can't really describe. There's no way to explain that.
Yeah.
That's not that to say that that's just oops a doodle is well, that's naive. There's
Yeah.
something behind it.
No, it
There's
clearly
something
is.
there.
And understand when I'm being very academic when I'm talking about
Yeah.
Josephus, it's clearly a much more powerful thing than just that, right?
Yeah.
And of course, Constantine, turning it into in Nicaea, turning it into a bureaucracy that went on to create and do incredible, horrible things is a
Horrible thing.
completely different conversation than the faithful. It is not the same conversation.
I
But
will say that I've always said, I don't consider myself a Christian. I consider myself a follower of Christ. I am not like Christ. I'm not good enough to be like Christ. And I find it amazing that Christians, who many of them far more devout than I have ever been, will sit there and call themselves that, knowing full well that it means Christ like. You are not like Christ. What are you doing? That's blasphemy. You're putting yourself on equal footing or near equal footing to your God, what are you doing?
Right.
Like,
Well,
to me, I've never understood why they take that title. First of all, it's derogatory. It was only started by, well, Jews to smear these people, right? Because at the time it was considered a derogatory term. And for
right,
some
and they
reason, they
adopted
just
it. Yeah,
adopted it.
that's
Yeah,
true. Well, it is funny that it's not funny, but I think it's quite intentional that Jesus is so unattainable. You
yes,
can't. No human can be that, and that's the point.
correct.
I think.
It is.
You know,
Yep. He's the ideal.
it's the ideal.
The
Yeah.
ideal. Yep.
But nevertheless, I'm going to be late for work, so I need to stop.
Chester, go to work, you loser.
I
God,
know. God, how dare I even?
you
Grimlock, would you like
bum.
to say something?
Yes, rest in peace, Suzanne Summers.
Up
Oh,
there, very
well, that
good.
sucks.
Well, take us out of here.
Well, I had a horrible week. This is the first I've even mentioned to Chester. I had to bury my dog. Well, actually, I
Oh,
cremated her,
there. And
and
that's coming for me soon, dude.
yeah, her spleen ruptured, and she had internal bleeding, and it was unfortunately had to happen. So I had a really bad week. That was my wife and I's dog. We've had that dog since before we were married. She's always been as long as we've been together, we've had Dahlia, and she's gone now. But I will say this: I think some people had a worse week. But it's interesting because I saw
Oh yeah,
earlier you guys didn't do
obviously.
your Tuesday stream because a lot of people were having a bad week, which is Tuesday's the day that happened, by the way.
Malaise. Yeah.
It's very interesting to me how many people seem to have a bad week last week. Something was in the air. Something was in the spirit, if you will, Chester.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm going to go with this one because I think it's apropos with what's going on, and I think if we had just a little bit more of it, the world would be a lot better place.
That's good, Jim.
Forgiveness is not solely for the forgiven. Very often, the forgiver is who benefits the most.
Namaste. Good joke, Alan. Later, everybody.
Later, boys and girls.